This is Jocko Podcast number 183 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
Not one of the guys on the ground had liked this mission. Now, moving to within a click of their target, they had pushed that distraction from their minds and were solely focused on the deadly challenge before them. Glancing at the GPS attached to the stock of his rifle and scanning the terrain ahead, Lieutenant Commander James Reese called a quick perimeter. Snipers were already moving up to the high ground as team leaders joined Reese for a last quick update before the final push to the objective. Even with all the technology at their disposal, things could go wrong in a heartbeat. Their enemy was cunning and highly adaptive. After 16 years at war, the Afghan saying, "The Americans all have the watches, but we have all the time," rang a bit more true than it had in the early days. "What do you think, Reese?" asked a huge beast of a man looking like a creature from another world, with his AOR-1 patterned camouflaged body armor and Ops Corps half-shell helmet with nods firmly in place. Reese looked at his most seasoned troop chief. The light green glow of the nods illuminated through the beard on the man's face, a slight smile that could not be mistaken for anything other than the confident look of a professional special operations soldier. "It's just over the rise," Reese replied. "Predator shows nothing moving. No sentries, nothing." His troop chief nodded. "All right, guys," he said to the other four men in the circle. "Let's do it." They rose with resolve and moved with the poise of men who were comfortable in chaos, moving up the rocky ridge line to get their teams in place before approaching the target to make entry. "This is too easy. You are thinking too much again. It's just another mission." "Then why this feeling?" "Maybe it's just the headaches." The headaches had plagued Reese for the past several months, finally prompting a visit to Balboa Naval Medical Center before this deployment for a series of tests. Still no word back from the docs. Maybe it's nothing. But maybe it's something. Reese had learned a long time ago that if something didn't look right, then it probably wasn't. That judgment had kept him and his men alive on many a deployment. Everything had lined up a little too easy for this target. The intel, the offset infill, the current state of the objective area. And why the pressure from higher authority to go after this target? When was the last time a flag-level command injected itself into a tactical planning process? Something wasn't adding up. Maybe everything's fine. Maybe it's the headaches. Maybe it's a bit of paranoia. Maybe I'm getting too old for this. Focus, Reese. This wasn't the first time that they had approached a target they had suspected was a possible ambush. At one point in the war, when intel had pointed to the high possibility of an ambush, corroborated by multiple sources, both human and technical, Reese would have knocked on the door with a thermobaric AT-4 or a few 105 rounds from an AC-130 gunship. This was the first time that actual tactics had been dictated from higher, from men who would not be on the ground. Focus on the mission, Reese. One more check with the Tactical Operations Center, a forward-based command also called the TOC, and a look at the Predator feed. Nothing. Another check with the sniper teams. Nothing moving. Reese glanced up at the military crest of the hill in front of him. Through his nods, he could see the assault teams set and ready to move. He couldn't see the snipers, which gave him cause for a thoughtful smile. Best in the business. Reese keyed his radio and opened his mouth to give the order to move. Then it all went black. The explosion knocked Reese back 10 yards and ripped his helmet from his head as the entire military crest of the hill in front of him erupted in a concussion of violence and death. Teammates, friends, husbands, and fathers who one moment earlier had represented the best special operations force in the world were gone in less than a second. Somewhere, a true believer is training to kill you. He is training with minimum food or water, in austere conditions, day and night. The only thing clean on him is his weapon, and he made his web gear. He doesn't worry about what workout to do. His ruck weighs what it weighs. His runs end when the enemy stops chasing him. The true believer doesn't care how hard it is. He only knows that he wins or he dies. He doesn't go home at 1700. He is home. He only knows the cause. And those right there are two excerpts from two books. The first one, a book called The Terminal List, and the second book, a book called True Believer. And these books are fiction. They are novels, and with the exception of the novel Musashi by Eli Yoshikawa, I have not covered any novels on the podcast. But I'm actually not here to talk about those novels. The novels, these books, were written by a SEAL that I knew, and a SEAL that is here with us tonight to share his experiences in the teams, what he learned, how he ended up where he did as a retired SEAL officer, a husband, a father, and a writer of fiction. His name is Jack Carr. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's great to be here.
Yeah, man. Good to finally get you out here. I know we tried to hook this up for a little while.
Yep.
It's good, and you sent me your latest book, and I said to myself, okay, well, let's just make this happen.
Awesome.
So, yeah, man, let's talk a little bit about you.
Well, that's hard. Well, I've never heard that True Believer read quite so well. So I used to read that to my guys in the teams, and then read your Laws of Combat. Read those to them, kind of and that one would just kind of set the stage about what the series, who we're going after here, and then your Laws of Combat, which of course I pass on to everybody I ever worked with ever since.
Right on, man.
You probably found a couple of them in the book for those that read them. There's a couple. I put them in italics, to give you credit. So,
check. So let's talk a little bit about where it all started. What year were you born?
Yeah, 73.
Okay. So you're kind of a youngin'.
What are you? What are you, 1 year older?
71.
Okay, got it. Yeah. No, I'm a child of the 80s, though. Those formative years were like 80 to 89.
And you grew up in NorCal?
NorCal, and my mom was a librarian from a very early age.
Were you rural area or city area?
Rural, yeah. I mean, not too rural. Small town, I'd say.
Small town?
Yep. So north of San Francisco.
Check.
There. Today is D-Day.
Yeah.
So probably appropriate we talk about that. My grandfather was killed in World War II, so from a very early age, was surrounded by those silk map. He was an aviator, Marine, flew the Corsair, which is that plane that had the gull wings that would fold up. Right about that time, there was the show Black Sheep Squadron on TV. I went to an air show and met Pappy Boynton before he passed away. Got his book signed, and so I always knew that the military was where I was going. Just earlier on, I didn't know exactly what that was going to be. But
did you ever think about trying to be a pilot?
Fleetingly, I'm sure I did. But
what about Marine Corps?
Fleetingly as a pilot, just to follow in the footsteps of my grandfather. But then it became very obvious that my skill set lay at a more primal level on the ground. It was just attracted to that for some reason. Probably a lot of, in the DNA for sure, but also the influence of popular culture, the books and movies that I read growing up. Those are the guys that I wanted to be like and had backgrounds that I wanted to have one day. But my grandfather didn't make it back from World War II, so he was killed off Okinawa in 1945 in May, so near the end of the war. And but his wings made it back. Old pictures of his black and white pictures of his squadron, him by his plane, the silk maps they give aviators back then, because if they hit the water with paper, they'd just disintegrate. So I had these silk maps. So I just grew up with him really as kind of the ideal hero, I guess. Obviously, never met him, and neither did my dad, because he was born while he was deployed. So grew up with just knowing that the military was my calling. There was never anything else I wanted to do. And then early on, I found out what SEALs were.
And your mom was a librarian?
Yep, still is to this day.
And so were you into reading?
Yep. Yeah, I grew up surrounded by books, and just always naturally gravitated when I got to be about fifth grade, I'd say, towards the things that the adults were reading at the time. So Tom Clancy, David Morrell, Nelson DeMille, A.J. Quinnell, J.C. Pollock, Mark Olden, these guys in the 80s that had protagonists with SEAL backgrounds or CIA backgrounds or Special Forces backgrounds. So not having the internet and not having that many nonfiction books written about SEALs, that's what I read. And I knew this is where I'm going. And then after that's done, I want to write fiction like these guys. So those are the two things that I wanted to do with my life.
How old were you when you actually found out about the SEAL teams? In fifth grade?
7, so second grade.
Second grade.
Yep.
You found out about the SEAL teams?
Yep.
From what?
So back then there were 4 channels back then growing up. So there was like ABC, CBS, NBC, and then that one outlier channel that always had some World War II movie on it going all the time. And I was the remote control back in the late 70s. So Sundays were football days, and I was not interested in football at all. But I was interested in that war movie that was playing opposite football. So at a commercial, my dad would look at his watch. I can still remember it to this day, sitting on the couch, and he'd say, "Go." And then I'd have 2 minutes to run up, change that channel to that outlier channel, and then sit back down, watch that movie, and then he'd say, "Turn it back to football 2 minutes later." So I got to do that, and I just wait through the football parts and then run up and change it to whatever war movie was playing.
So this causes attention deficit disorder without question.
Maybe. Yeah, I'd be trained from early
that are
age.
Incredible patience and imagination. You got to fill in the blanks during the
That
play.
might be it. That might be it. And so one of those movies was The Frogman. And it showed these guys climbing up over the beaches ahead of a conventional force landing and putting explosives on these obstacles. And I asked my dad, "Hey, who are these guys?" And he said, "Those are frogmen." And I said, "Okay, what's a frogman?" He said, "Ask your mother." So I did. And then we went down to the local library, because she would take any excuse to get us to the library and do research, show us how to use the Dewey Decimal System, pull out the card things, the whole deal, and did a little research. And there was hardly anything written back then. There was a couple magazines that had mentions of SEALs, a couple nonfiction books that had a chapter or a paragraph or two on SEALs.
That was not much.
Not much at all. And but my takeaway was that these guys are touted anyway as one of the most elite fighting forces in the world, and the training is the toughest ever devised by our modern military. Arguably, that was my takeaway as a 7-year-old kid. Of course,
that's the same thing. We all know that's all arguable now.
Exactly.
And there's all kinds of different hard parts of all different training. And I never went to Ranger School, and if I did go eat one MRE a day, I would not be a happy camper.
Brutal.
But so everyone's got their little challenges. But I heard the same thing.
Exactly. So they had me.
And and you find out that it's so what did you do? Did you start preparing for it physically?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
What did you start doing?
Everything I did from that. So I guess I do an early form of CrossFit, I guess, before CrossFit was a thing in high school. So not in the younger years, junior high, I was still playing soccer and running around cross country, doing all that sort of. But I do credit cross country in those hills in Northern California with giving me, for whatever reason, that never quit. I see people stopping on the hill that would just give me energy.
Were you like a pretty good runner?
I was okay. Yeah, I was good. But there were some guys that were really, really good. Mine was just dogged determination, really. So I was pretty good, but not the greatest. But I love it when I'd see people walking especially on the hills. When people from the flatlands would come up to our course and they'd hit that first hill and just walk, it would just devastate them. And I just feed off that. Kind of like in Hell Week when people would quit. And I always feel bad talking about this, but I mean, it's true. Some people would say, come back, don't quit, come back. I didn't say one word.
Yeah, see you later.
Like, this is sorry. Exactly. This is what this program is designed to do. And so I kind of fed off that, I guess. I loved it, especially when the biggest, strongest, fastest guys for those first 3 weeks or whatever it was, of buds, quit the first couple hours.
What's up with just studs just quitting?
First couple of hours. I don't know. People said that was going to happen. Yeah. And it did.
Yeah, I mean, studs where I thought to myself, wow, this guy seems like a complete stud.
Yep.
Mentally, physically, just legit, and then just quitting.
Yeah, right away.
How is that?
I don't know, but I would look at these guys when I first showed up to Buds, and I'm like, man, that guy's huge. How? And he's doing great climbing these ropes. And he's not even using his legs. And like, oh my God, look at him go on those monkey bar things. And geez, how am I going to make it through if there's a guy like that here? And then he quits. I'm like, oh, I see how this works.
Yeah, you're mentally weak.
Exactly. I could do this. Yep.
So you did running?
Yep.
You did cross country?
Yep. Early on, did that stuff. Soccer, lacrosse in high school. But then I'd ride my bike to school, which was, I don't know how long, at least 10 miles, I guess. So early morning, Northern California, cold, and because it was part of training. And then I'd get home, and we had this kind of play set, whatever, from when we were kids, and I'd do pull-ups, holding different, trying to make an obstacle course for myself when I got home. And I would be knocking out like 20 pull-ups at whatever, 13, 14 years old, and then go have like some pasta or a piece of bread with butter on it for my snack. And started training martial arts pretty early too. But I was searching because local Taekwondo place, right? And you're doing some kata stuff, and you're learning a little bit.
And you're how old were you?
That would probably be fresh, 14, let's say.
So even as a 14-year-old, you're like, well,
like
this seems like it may work, but it also seems like...
What if someone hits me in the face?
Maybe it won't work. Even as a 13-year-old, kind of picked up on that.
Yep.
Which is, I give you credit.
Well,
because them guys can be convincing,
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you see these videos of people online that are making people fall down by pointing at them and yelling their ki at them.
I know, it's hilarious.
People literally fall down and start shaking.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But I think I grew up also, like, talk about that, the influence of popular culture. So, Rocky movies, I was just, wow, man, that's fighting right there. I want to learn how to do that. How do I learn how to do that in Northern California? Well, there wasn't really a place to go. But that tenacity, like getting up every time you get knocked down, like I think those things really wore off on me. Like I took that seriously and still do to this day.
What kind of music were you listening to?
I didn't really do the music thing till the last few years, really. I just like quiet. Yep.
I realized I'm starting to give music less credit than I used to. When I meet people and I talk to them for a little bit, I'd go, what kind of music did you listen to growing up? Because it would always kind of fill me in about kind of who they were, because when we grew up, you only listened to what you kind of, you didn't get exposed to a bunch of stuff. You kind of had to figure it out and go down that channel. And so if you listen to heavy metal, okay, I see what you were doing. Or you listen to, Leonard Skinner. Okay, cool. You could just kind of know, because people wouldn't say, because what does everyone say now? What do you listen to? They say everything, because everything's free and they can listen to all this different kinds, and it's just wide open. And that's what all these kids say nowadays. I listen to everything, a little bit of everything. And so
don't offend anyone.
Yeah. And so you just weren't even into music?
No, not until I got my driver's license, and then I kind of had to, because you had other people in the car, and they bring a cassette tape, a mix tape, and put that thing in. And for whatever reason, where I grew up, people listened to stuff like 60s, 70s type stuff.
Same
like
with me.
Leonard Skinner.
Well, my dad had a Barracuda. And the car,
like the sports car type
like
thing,
a 73 Barracuda, yellow with, and you're saying it impressed, but it was not, because it was my dad being a broke teacher, needed a new car, and went out and paid whatever $1,800 for this car that was rusty, but it had an 8-track in it. And nice. And my dad, I think he had one 8-track, and it was Hank Williams. like Hank
So
Williams.
that was it.
Yeah, Hank Williams Sr.
Yep.
So we listened to a lot of Hank Williams when I was growing up.
We had Kenny Rogers.
Yeah,
we had the Gambler.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. We had the Gambler every morning getting dropped off for school. It wasn't an 8-track. I think my dad was an early adopter. But
he was big time
he got a cassette.
Crazy with the cassette player.
Exactly. And I remember to this day, every day on the way to school was the Gambler.
Yeah. All right. So what did your dad do?
He was an attorney at that time, and then got into real estate later on, and then retired early.
And so, okay, so you're now. At what point did you say, okay, I'm gonna go for sure? Like, at what point was this? 10 years old? Was this 12 years old?
7
years old.
Yep.
All right, yeah, this is what I'm doing.
I'm going.
And what made you decide? Anything else significant from high school? You're playing soccer, you're playing lacrosse, you're running, doing pull-ups on the monkey bars, whatever.
Trail running, all that sort of thing. Just getting ready, thinking about my next steps, and knowing that there was going to be a little bit of pause there to go to college first, just in case, because we have to have contingency plans. Tertiary,
so
secondary.
you looked and said like, okay, I'm going to go to college.
Yeah. That first. And I needed to do that because I needed to get stronger, bigger, faster, and I thought I needed to anyway.
Right.
I don't know if that's the case or not, but
probably not. But you were just more humble, and you were thinking, "Hey, I need to be in better shape."
Man, I thought there was 8 guys on a SEAL team, and I was going to be one of those guys. And if I was going to be one of those guys, I needed to be in the best possible shape. And at that time, the best possible shape looked like Stallone and looked like Arnold. So I did not look like either of those guys. So and I still don't. I never did. But I thought I need to hit the iron here. I need to get boxing, and I did a little bit in high school. So go back to that martial arts school, the Taekwondo thing. There was an instructor there that kind of knew that this wasn't quite the deal, like a brown belt in Taekwondo. And then for my last, I guess, year and a half of high school, he wanted to start his own thing. And so I'd go pick him up in my car because he didn't have one, and we'd go to the local park and we'd box. And it was like jab, reverse, hook, and then do the basics. And that was awesome.
1, 2, 3.
I absolutely loved it.
That wins a lot of street fights.
Yeah, exactly.
The 1, 2, 3.
Yep. I learned what a takedown was, because he did some wrestling.
Oh, okay.
So I got to do a little of that.
This guy was an early MMA pioneer.
Exactly. Yep.
If only he had a car.
Yeah.
he could have really made something happen.
Such a great, and he's still doing it today. Yeah, Mike Valentine is now. I haven't seen him in years, but he has a place up in Northern California, and he's still doing it. And as soon as he found out about jiu-jitsu, he was doing that.
Oh, good for him.
He was driving to San Francisco and working out with whoever was the San Francisco guy in the early 90s, I guess.
Yeah.
And
Maybe we're talking about Half Gracie.
I don't know.
Charles Gracie, maybe. There's a bunch of options up there, yeah.
But nobody was really doing that. Nobody was mixing stuff up like that I knew about anyway, in my little town of whatever however many people it was. But then I just kept on that path, and I thought it was going to be a lifelong path. And but I peaked in about 95.
And that was in college?
Yeah.
So you end up going to college. What did you go to study college for?
I wanted to get out of there as soon as possible so I could get to the SEAL teams. And so justice studies criminology seemed to be the thing that you could just, hey, that's kind of interesting, and I can get through this thing in 4 years and get to the teams.
And your backup plan would have been some kind of cop or something like that?
I guess, but I didn't really waste too much time thinking about a backup plan. I just knew that college, having that degree, was the backup plan, but I'd figure that out later. It was full on devoted to figuring out how to get to the teams and then being in the best shape I could mentally, physically, spiritually before I got there.
When did you go to a recruiter? What year of college?
After I finished.
Oh, so after you finished college.
And I thought it was going to be like Forrest Gump. Like you go to the recruiter and there's a bus waiting outside and you walk through and you get on the bus and off you go. Like,
Isn't
I
it
didn't
funny
know.
how totally ignorant
everyone it's
is
crazy.
in the military until you do it?
I did research enough to find out that there was something called a dive farer program.
Okay.
And my recruiter didn't even know what it was, but it was in the back of a book, and I forget the name of the book, a paperback book that talked about all sorts of different special operations, and then it had like one paragraph on how to get to those places. But it said dive farer program. So I went in there. It was a kind of a scam.
I did that program too.
Total scam.
Yeah.
Like they get you to sign on for 6 years, and they say you guaranteed a chance to try out.
Yeah,
like, that's all I need. That's what I want.
Buds.
I want the guarantee to try out. That's all I need. And then you get to boot camp, and everybody got a chance, and when I was there anyway, to try out.
Yeah.
Wait a second. I signed on for 6, these guys for 4, and we all get the chance. Dang it. But anyway, I ended up spending the 20 years in anyway.
Yeah. So you what year was it that you actually enlisted in the Navy then?
96. 96. So got out of college. And I thought, like I said, I was going to walk onto that bus, and then I'm training and I roll my ankle, and I'm like, oh man, it's going to be the end. And I can't believe it's like this huge. I thought it was broken. Ended up just being, whatever.
Bad sprain.
Yeah, nothing.
Plus you're 20, huge, whatever.
It's
How
black
old were
and
you?
blue, 21. And so you think, you're seeing this black and blue ankle that's huge, and it's like, oh man, what did I do? I was running. Why was I training that day? I should have just relaxed, not gotten hurt. And then so I was on crutches for a couple months, and then got back after it and got in the pool.
How long was it from the time you enlisted until the time you shipped out?
There's all those things you're supposed to do ahead of time when you're on. What do they call it when you're supposed to be going to classes? I didn't do any of that. MEPS, I think. Yeah, I didn't do any of that stuff though, because it was encouraged, but somewhere I found out it was not mandatory. Yeah. And I was like, okay, good, because I don't want to have to, do whatever, these 10 push-ups with these people. I need to be actually training.
Was it a month though?
No, it was months. Yeah, it wasn't years. No, it was like 5 months.
Like
maybe.
5 months or something. Yeah, that's just like a little heads up to people. Like you think what you thought, which is what I thought. Hey, once I sign up, I'm just gonna get on a bus and that's cool. I'm good.
Yep.
And really, you got to go survive for another 5 months or 6 months as you're waiting to go, because they have certain billets allowed and all this stuff. So it's kind of a pain.
Yep, and you got to do the medical stuff, the dental stuff, take the ASVAB, and all that sort of thing to get ready. So those, I think, a couple of trips over to the main recruiting station to do all those sorts of things, get the paperwork in line, and then off you go. So, and then I was in, now they have all the people that are going to be in some sort of naval special warfare something.
It's more squared away now.
Yeah, I think so.
They go through they go to Chicago, I think, for 8 weeks to get ready for Buds.
Yep.
So you showed up to Buds. Were you ready for Buds?
I was as ready as one could possibly be, with all that training and all that thought. And then I knew, hey, there's no way I'm quitting, because all of my friends from growing up knew that I wanted to do this since I was 7. And so there's no way I'm quitting. I'm going to die. I can't go home and tell them why I didn't make it.
You know what's weird is people do that right there and they still quit.
Yeah.
Which boggles my mind. The quitting thing is hard for me to comprehend. And when I hear about people doing it, like people like that, there was a guy that killed himself recently, and he was that guy, and he had told everyone, I'm going to be a SEAL, and he had trained for it, and he prepared for it, and he looked like a stud. He looked like a beast of a kid, and he played lacrosse, and he was varsity this and captain of that. I mean, and then he got to Buds, and for whatever reason, he quit, and then he killed himself. And you just think, man, like, whatever they're telling you in Buds, don't quit.
That's it. That's it.
Just don't quit.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah, just do not quit. And I know they play psychological games on people of saying, they'll say, you don't belong here and all this kind of stuff. I don't even remember if they said that to me. I didn't care what they said to me. It wasn't even penetrating anything in my brain. But that's what they do. They'll say, oh, you don't belong here. We don't want you on the team. And somebody that's sensitive to that, it can get through to them, and make them start believing that the instructors are going to leave and go order a pizza. They're not actually thinking about that,
No.
But they take some kid and they quit, and you know what? Good, like you said, good. If someone has that, if someone is going to quit, please quit during Buds, for sure.
Didn't those guys watch Full Metal Jacket? I mean, there's all these movies that show drill instructors and what it's like.
People
and
are going to yell at you. People are going to scream at you. It's going to be a big game.
Exactly.
Did you have any trouble with anything at Buds?
So I swam before I got there, and I'd wake up super early, meet the master swim program at 5 in the morning, because I knew swimming was my weak point. I mean, I swam, I had no problem swimming, but I wasn't a competitive swimmer.
You were so much more prepared for Buds than me. I'm just like, even the fact that you analyzed like what your strengths and weaknesses were, I was just super dumb. I was just like,
that's another way to go, and it worked out.
Yeah, but I was young too, which is beneficial. It's beneficial just to be young, because you're just going to adapt.
Right.
I mean, your brain isn't even completely developed until you're 24?
Something like that.
So I know. 18, 19 years old, I was just full adaptation to whatever they're telling me.
And that's what you have to do in life in general. But I distinctly remember going to the pool. So I'm rehabbing my ankle at this point, and I'm going to the pool now, and it's outdoors, and it's
this is
frost.
Pre-Buds,
yeah. Okay, so there's like not snow, but that layer of frost on the pool deck. So once you got in, it was actually kind of warm, but you still have to walk across that pool deck and jump in with these people that are way older but way faster. I was definitely the slowest person in this master's swim program, because these people had swum competitively. Now they're 40, which was old at the time.
Yeah.
42 years
Oldest
old.
person you've ever seen in your life.
Old, and they're swimming at 5 a.m. Dang. So I did that. So I was prepared for the water, and I grew up in the water essentially. I scuba diving at age 9, so I was comfortable in the water, which helped out later.
Once again, you were so much more prepared for months. I was like, well, I mean, I knew I could swim, and I surfed as a kid, and that helped, but I definitely wasn't scuba diving.
Yeah, well, I was free diving for abalone up north. So that's been with all those. Now I don't know if I do that now. It's like a great white breeding ground up there.
Yeah, for sure.
But abalone was amazing. I loved it. We'd camp out up there and just have a great time. But even though I prepared like that, the swims were hard. And that first swim, because it's that underwater recovery stroke, and in 1996, they didn't teach you. Now they teach you how to do this thing.
Yeah.
Now they get in the water. Here's your little basics. Here's how you do it. Bring your head up, whatever. So I'm like, what stroke is this? None of the books talked about this. Let me try to do it.
We can get this in the master's program.
It was not in the master swim program. And I was third to last. I remember getting out of that first swim where they pair everybody up and whatever they call it, the 2 weeks before you class up, whatever that thing is called. And I was like, man, I'm third to last. And I came staggering out of the water. Like I put out on this thing. And I'm like, wow, anyway, so they pair me up with this really slow guy. And I think he quit right away. So then they paired me up with somebody else who was faster. So I'm barely making the swims in first phase. And then one of the guys in my class was a water polo player from like USC or something like that. And he's like, hey, do you want me to teach you how to do this stroke? I'm like, yeah, it'd be great. And so we went out behind the barracks thing and went out in the ocean. Yeah. And he just showed me how to do it. And then I went from being third to last to the next swim, I was third.
There you go.
That was awesome. And I was never third again. I was like fifth or sixth, whatever. Yeah. But from going from third to last, I distinctly remember, to then coming out third after learning the stroke, I was like, I got this.
It's different too swimming with fins too.
And the way they teach you to do it is a little bit different, whatever. But now they prepare. Now you're prepared going in physically. Like that 8 weeks they spend in Chicago, they learn the strokes. They learn how to lift the logs and not hurt themselves, and how to use the boats.
There's instructions on how to lift the logs.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh wow!
How to climb the ropes, mental toughness classes, all that stuff. Because they went. But you know what happened, of course. Once those guys showed up, and they were expecting a lot more SEALs to come through now because they needed more in 2003, 4, 5, 6. We need more SEALs. So let's do this program. And now we just got the fitter quitters. And so same essentially.
That's the crazy thing.
Yep.
The crazy thing is the attrition rate doesn't change.
Exactly.
Fitter quitters.
Fitter quitters.
I like that. Because it doesn't matter how many pull-ups you can do. I mean, it does matter. And people say to me, well, is it mental or physical? It's definitely both. If you can't climb a rope, you're not making it through. It doesn't matter how bad you want to climb a rope. If you haven't put in the work, you're not going to be able to climb a rope. Yeah. But yeah, you can get some fitter quitters.
Exactly. I always say that any average high school athlete physically can make it through boats.
Totally agree.
It's it's the obviously the mental part there that comes in, and you get guys that are in amazing shape, guys that were Olympic athletes or whatever it is, and they quit right away. And I think a lot of that, and like the guy that killed himself, maybe he hadn't faced adversity in the ways that you need to figure out how to actually overcome it and how to get knocked down and keep moving forward. And you're going to get hurt. You're going to play hurt. And a lot of these guys aren't used to that. They're used to being treated in a way where if they're hurt, they have someone's right there. Yeah. They're making sure that they're okay, and they're going to rehab and all that stuff. It's not, they're like Lamborghinis. Yeah. They're going to the shop a lot.
There's no one that really crushes buds.
No, I don't think so.
That just like, oh yeah, everything was easy. Because there'll be some really good athletes, and I did have some stud athletes. And my honor man was a guy named Keith Kimura, who was just a beast. He just fast at everything and strong. He was just a beast, And so I would say I guess there are a few guys that crush buds, but most people they're gonna have some. They're gonna pick apart some weak points in you.
Yep, and that's what you want. I wanted to be tested. That was one of the main draws. It's like I want to see if I can do this.
Did you make it through first time every time?
Nope. So I had after Hell Week, my legs weren't working, whatever stress fractures, whatever it was. So they yanked me off the next swim because I was just sinking probably, and said, "You're going to medical." Of course, you're like, "No, I'm not going to medical."
Never.
Exactly, never. So
you will not take me alive.
Exactly. I mean, I remember them pulling me out onto the boat and be like, "You are going to medical now." And I was like, "Dang it!" So I went in there, but it worked for me. Whatever they did, like some people stayed there at that time. Like you could have a guy there for like a year, just kind of hiding out. But for me, it worked. It just their legs needed a little rest, and then classed up with the next class.
The next class.
Yeah.
What was your attitude when you got rolled? Was it like the end of your life? Were you like, oh my God? Or were you like, okay, cool, I'm going to, because I guess there's so many people get rolled back.
Yeah. I was a little bummed because you're friends with all these guys. They're going on to dive phase, and you're like, you're watching them go on to dive phase, and you're like, fuck. But then a lot of them get rolled back for pool comp, and then you got half your class back again. So that was great. And pool comp was my favorite. Like that and drown proofing, because that's the only time you get to get physical with an instructor. The other time, like you're just there, you're getting yelled at, you're being told you're worthless, whatever. But this is the time where it's mano a mano. And it's like you against them, and it's a little bit physical. So I love pool comp. Past first time, I was comfortable in the water. But then the drown proofing also, that's where you really get physical. They have those different types of bodies that you have to save.
You mean life saving?
Life saving, yeah,
for sure.
Life saving. So they have the guy that's just there, just like dead weight, and then the one that's fighting you, and that's the one I liked. That was awesome. And they drag you to the bottom, and I just be like, and there's probably the martial arts stuff, just relax, because he's working to keep me down there at the bottom. And then when he comes up for air, then I just go a little more, and then he'd get his air, and he'd drag me back down. But it was like us together. Like I loved that part. That was my favorite part of BUD/S.
You know what I figured out? I figured out what the choke hold, right? I figured out, like, okay, this is a choke, like a rear naked choke that I can use, and the recovery is I think you put your arm over, like almost the same, but you grab them like by the lat on the other side. Maybe. And I just realized, if I just put my arm over here, it's going to choke this dude, and it's going to make him like get under control, and then boom, I can go back to the position. But I had a good time with that. I failed pool comp. Because the former UDT guy from Nam, who ended up working for me at Tradet, and one day I asked him, I said, do you remember failing me in pool comp? He goes, oh yeah, I was just messing with you. I was like, oh, cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome. Appreciate it. And then I passed the next time. But the water I was pretty comfortable in from surfing growing up. But for me, everything, I had to work hard. I had to run hard, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, that's the whole thing. That's what it's all about.
So you get done. You get done with BUD/S, and where'd you end up going?
Going Team 5. And, back then you're like, what's going to happen? Oh, North Korea is going to happen. So I've got to hear reading stuff in the air. It's still going to happen if you read the news. So I went to Team 5. That was my first choice. And just because of that.
So now it's 1990.
97.
1997.
Yep. Showing up there.
So I was still on the West Coast at this time. I was over at Team 1.
Yep.
And I was in training cell. That was right around when I got picked up for a commissioning program. So I'm just trying to think time frame, like all the guys that I know from Team 5 were all there.
Yeah, old school 90s.
Welcoming you aboard.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Very gentle,
loved
welcoming
it.
environment.
Yeah, actually I loved it, and I thought we'd get there, of course, and get issued a pager, and then they'd give us all this awesome gear, and we'd be at, the bar drinking, and all of a sudden they'd go off like in the movies, and we'd fly off and, save the princess and get back in time for beers the next night. And then I get there, and it's like, hey, new guy, clean that toilet and paint that wall, change those light bulbs. And I was like, roger that. Let's do it. I'm going to be the best light bulb changer that you've got here. And so that was a little different.
Did you go through SQT at Group 1, or did you go through it?
Second time. Yeah, it was the second class at Group 1.
Okay.
So went through that one. And it was good. It was professionalizing it, standardizing things. Obviously, it's more professional now. But it was a great time. I loved that. I had a blast.
And then you rolled into a platoon. What was your position in your first platoon? What did you do?
I was the assistant comm guy.
Sure.
So for whatever reason, they're like, college, you're going to comm school.
Dang
it, I want to be the point man. Exactly, you must be smart.
I was going to say, you must have wanted to be a point man.
Yeah, of course. You read those books, read Point Man, of course, by Patches Watson, and that's what you want to do, watching all those movies. So when they told me I was going to be a comm guy, I was like, dang it. That's the guy that, it's the guy that gets shot first in all the Vietnam movies right next to the LT.
He educated, we making him a comm guy.
Yeah, he got the antenna sticking up in the jungle and over the grass, and that's where so anyway, but I did that, and it was actually a great experience being a comm guy, because you're part of the planning process as a new guy. And then you're learning the radios. Yeah, it was great. So going through that comms course and then bringing back the newest radios, newest techniques, whatever it is, to the platoon. So even though you have a primary comm guy, you kind of know what's going on after that. That's a good course. It was anyway. It was a long course. So it was good to be part of the planning process. So as for someone that was going to be an officer at some point, I got to experience planning.
Did you even have that in your brain?
I knew it was an option. Yeah, it was an option. So it was either that or the other East Coast SEAL team.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do both of those things. I thought, but I figured, hey, let's check it out. I'm brand brand new, figure this out and see if I'm going to be an officer one day or go to another SEAL team or move on and go to the, the Central Intelligence Agency, like all the people I read about and watched in the movies. And there's nothing going on, right? There's nothing going on in the late 90s.
1997. Get some.
Exactly. Yeah, nothing happening. Some shipboardings, like one platoon did a shipboarding.
Was it your platoon?
No.
Because I did some shipboardings back in the day.
I did them right after September 11th, but this is before that. So it was like, wow.
Oh, yeah. Pre September 11th doing shipboardings, it was like, I was walking around like I was damn, whoever. I was walking around like I was, like all of us were like, we had big combat experience. It's like, no, you're a loser.
But back then, that's what you wanted to be doing.
No, and to be quite frank, we weren't walking around but we were, I was completely stoked that we got to do something real, that I got to lock and load my gun. Like that was cool. And it was good. It was, good enough. Because most guys didn't get to do that. Most time, many guys would just go on deployment and they would train other foreign militaries on how to do stuff. And that's cool. Build relationships with other countries, cool. All that. Do some big exercises, cool. Yep. But to actually lock and load your weapon and have a real loadout was like a big step back then, and it felt great for me. But this is 97, and where'd you go on deployment?
So that was a PACOM. So it was
was it shipboard or no?
No. This was all the things you just talked about.
Yeah.
It was,
so you're just
training South Korea, doing
countries, training people,
Australia, wherever else. So just the normal PACOM type thing. Well, pre-September 11th with not much going on.
And then you come back from that deployment, roll right into another platoon because that's what you guys do. They become a one cruise wonder. You get promoted to one cruise wonder.
Oh yeah.
Were you the primary comms guy or did you skate out of comms?
Oh no.
Did you get any good schools in between?
Yep.
What'd you get?
Free fall sniper.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. So
double trouble.
Yeah. So sniper is what I wanted.
So you must have been squared away because they don't just give those schools away.
I mean, I don't know. You asked my chief, but I
did. I checked with him.
He was a crazy man, that guy. But so right to sniper school, which is what I wanted, which I always wanted to do. So got there, did 73 days, I guess, in Kalinga, where you get the valley fever, stuff going on. But
you passed?
So I passed, but I didn't pass stalking because I didn't grow up doing that sort of thing. So I was shooting. That was good. I grew up shooting, so I had no problems there. But then the stalking was a shock to me. Yeah. I didn't really understand what was going on. I was crawling for 1,000 meters, out to do this, and you can just walk for most of that. I didn't know that at the time. Those of us that didn't know what we were doing were just crawling in an island in the summer, and so I came back and did it again, and then knocked it out the second time.
We just had Jason Gardner on, and same thing. He's like, I shot fine, but failed stalking.
Oh, no kidding.
And then he came back on again and was talking about, he talked about some of the mistakes he made, and it was very similar to what you said, but they would tell him like, hey, figure out where you're trying to get to and actually analyze the situation before you start moving. And of course, when he was younger, he was just, no, I'm just going to go. Yeah. And so he just went, and he wouldn't make it in time or people would see him. So that stalking thing is no joke.
Yeah. But the second time was complete opposite. I think I just relaxed the second time.
When did you go through it the second time? When did you go back for stalking?
Right before, I think we deployed. Yeah, right before we deployed second time.
You did it during that same workup?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah, so right back. But I think I just relaxed. And I got there and knocked them all out. You have points for people that don't know. You build up points as you stalk or whatever. So the last, I think, couple stalks, I'd already had all my points. So now I'm just trying to help other guys. And,
that's cool.
Looking back, I'm like, should I really help these people? Or should they have, should I have gone back to my buds thing? And you're different. It's different. How
would you help them? Like by trying to distract the instructors, or
by finding that OP that you have to crawl and get within a certain distance, and then let them know, hey, no, you're too far, you're too close. Risking by oh, there it is. So he didn't have to risk and look, that sort of thing. So should I have done that? Maybe not. But anyway, and it gave me good practice too, because I got to push the limits then, which gave me a lot of confidence in what I was going to do later.
That's pretty awesome.
And then I paid for myself to go to some urban sniper course at Pendleton. One of these kind of fly-by-night operations that was going on back then to teach people how to do whatever. So I went to an urban sniper course that I paid for because I was curious, and we didn't do that at the time in sniper school. So I got to learn about urban hides and all that sort of thing, which was pretty cool.
Sweet. Who's running it?
I forget the name of it. I think it had like,
but like who are the people? Were they
former Marine snipers? I think that were out.
Well, if it was at Pendleton, I guess it probably was.
They had some connections there or something. Exactly. Exactly. So, and then free fall too. And free fall was a crazy one because that was. I came back to the team one day and I didn't get free fall right away. I did sniper school and then usually kind of like one or the other for a new guy coming back. And so my friends went and I came back from, and this was the first time that they'd done the civilian deal where they were training like at wherever that was. And so came back from lunch. It was like, you're back, you're kind of, people are going to schools and it's, so people are taking leave or whatever, got married. And so I came back and I see Andy Stump, who and he's got this look on his face. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. I parked my truck and, there's no gate guard at the time. You just drive onto base. Remember that? Yeah. And he told us one of our dear friends had burned in and died in free fall, like in that first week. And I was like, and then of course, what does the team do after? And I go to the family, we're dear friends, and do all that stuff. It was my first experience with that. Yeah. And so what does the team do? Oh, you're going to free fall. Yeah. Like a week later after the funeral, I'm like, dang, okay, let's do it. So we did the Yuma, not the civilian one, but went to Yuma. Stopped at Bragg first for the air tunnel that they did back then, the wind tunnel.
Oh, that's cool.
And then on to Yuma. So did those before my second platoon.
And then you go on your second deployment now.
Yep.
And when did you go on deployment?
So a couple weeks before September 11th. Oof. Yep. So Guam, expecting a deployment like the first one. Just we're going to go train some people and finally get to go to Thailand. And 2 weeks into it, September 11th happened. People start banging on doors up and down the barracks. And we didn't have TVs in our room then. So, phones are ringing because it's midnight, I guess, in Guam and, 9 a.m. on the East Coast. And we all get up and go down to the basement of the barracks in Guam where we had one TV, and we all watched the Twin Towers fall on TV. And I was the intel guy too, so I was comms and intel. And so I'd been reading, I just read what the Bin Laden book was that previous year, The Man Who Declared War on America, I think it was called. And so I was always reading this stuff. I was always fascinated by it. I was always reading about terrorism, insurgencies, wanted to make myself the best SEAL I could possibly be. So I knew what Al-Qaeda meant. I knew it meant the base. And so I gave a brief right away, and nobody knew. I remember the CO of Guam had no idea who Al-Qaeda was. And so I gave my brief, and obviously I've been studying it ever since. But we thought we'd be on planes the next day. Thought this is on. Let's go. We start palletizing, getting ready, but really it took a couple weeks, and then off we went, and that's when I did the shipboardings because we took over for Team 3 who went into Afghanistan, and we ended up taking their shipboarding mission, which actually, looking back, was a good one because that was my only shipboarding experience, and it was interesting because it's like a cop pulling over someone in the middle of the night. Like, you don't know what you're walking up on. You have no idea. And instead of a car and a cop, this is a Class 3 tanker that's heading for Iranian waters, and you have a certain amount of time to get on there and turn it around. And as an E5, I'm turning around a Class 3 tanker using my GPS and a compass and turning this thing around. It was pretty cool doing that.
And there's some good coordination that has to happen on those. So it's, as a comm guy, you're working with a bunch of different networks, and then did you end up, you just said it. You end up a lot of times being the person that knows how to work GPS because you're the comm guy. At least it used to be that way.
Now everybody, that's all they know how to do
now everybody knows how to do it, but yeah.
Actually, the map and compass, that's why when I, later on, jumping ahead, I had to relearn map and compass because I got so dependent on GPS. And there was a book, I think it's called Be Expert with Map and Compass. So when I took over the junior officer training course before I got out, we had a really good map course that we did. And
the map and compass course, the map and compass, so I was a comm guy, and when we first started getting issued, this was in like 92, we first started getting issued the big GPSs, and they were like the size of and they were big. They were like the size of 2 shoe boxes, maybe. I remember. They were big. The PSN 8 with this big giant antenna that was like the size of my water bottle. But what was interesting is they say, okay, Jocko, you got to figure out how to work this thing. So I figured out how to work it. And I said, well, all it does is tells us where we are. And they're like, yeah. And I said, well, if we have a map and compass, we're good. Like, I know where we are on a map and compass for sure. I'm like, I know. Out at sea, it's different once you get over the horizon. But anyways, so it was kind of always surprising to me that it's so much easier if you do a good terrain study. You can just walk and you can look at your compass occasionally, and you know where you are, rather than constantly looking at a GPS and getting your night vision trashed from that or whatever. It just was a different transition. I mean, and then obviously GPSs became so good that they're pretty awesome.
Everyone has one on their watch.
Yeah, they're
today.
pretty awesome now.
But I did like the map and compass stuff because I grew up doing it in the Sierras. I grew up backpacking and doing. But after college, I went to Alaska for 3 months and backpacked around up there. Did a national outdoor leadership school up there. Once again, training, getting ready.
You were so ready for buds. I went to high school. That's what I did.
But that just goes to show it doesn't matter. It's all the mental part. It doesn't matter how much you prepare or how little you prepare. It's all if you want it. If you're an average athlete and you want this thing, hey, just don't quit. You'll learn along the way. You'll get in better shape when you start running in that sand. Just don't quit. That
sand will get you in good running shape. So at what point did you put in for an officer package?
So that's spring before the September 11th deployment. It was, we had a chief that was interesting, a leadership team, I'd say, that was interesting. And, the E5 Mafia was not happy. They were, and it was one of those things like, hey, I can complain about it like everybody else, or I can put in this package and go and do it better than it was done for me. So that's what I did.
And you got picked up first time?
Yeah.
Oh, you already had a college degree and all that.
Yeah, so put in, got my, I remember I won't say who he is because I think he's an admiral now, but he was an XO at the time, and he went for my interview, and it was a Friday afternoon, so Friday afternoon Team 5 workout included a keg, and so, I did the workout, but then I changed into my whites, so now I'm in my whites in the spring, and those things are horrible. I hate those uniforms, but so I'm in my whites, getting them all perfect, and I go in to do my interview with the XO at the time, admiral now, and he's got a beer in front of him and it's PT stuff. He's like, I just want you to know how this is going to go, and if it's any indication, this beer should be an indication of how this interview is going to go. And I was like, but I was still, doing
of course,
military bearing, the whole thing. But yeah, of course, I had a good first 2 platoons as a new guy with no war going on, and so I got picked up the first time.
And then you went to OCS?
Oh, yeah, after I got back. So, but of course, September 11th happens, and I'm like, dang it, I made the wrong choice. Because where you want to be is you want to be an enlisted guy. To be in the fight for a while first anyway.
Yeah.
So, but it ended up working out well because I got right back from that deployment. I did a little training trip to a place, and that was a great experience. And then classed up for OCS in Pensacola. And did the same things. Yeah,
I did that too.
It's awful. I did the same things we did in boot camp: folding underwear, folding T-shirts, making our bed. All those things that somehow qualify you to lead men in combat. And then right back to SEAL teams, and ended up at a great team that the CO had just come back from another East Coast SEAL team, having spent almost a year deployed after September 11th, and brought his lessons learned back. And then he sent me to that team and right downrange. Yeah. So as a brand new officer, I was downrange fairly quickly. So timing wise, it worked out well for me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I learned a ton on that deployment, and then brought that back to my team, and then deployed again right away to Iraq. So I got a good.
Then you deployed as an assistant platoon commander.
I was kind of like a thirdo.
That's right. There was a time where there was a thirdo.
Yep, thirdo. So you ended up doing a lot of the admin stuff, and you still learn a lot. But that's when, as an extra guy, essentially, that's when Najaf happened. So that's when I had probably the most formative time in uniform was taking a sniper team into Najaf. So it's pitched combat for, I think it was a 2-week campaign, so it was 11 days, and it was one of the first times, I think, that we really went to the conventional side and said, hey, how can we help? Mm-hmm. We're here to support you in this campaign. Here's what I'm bringing to the table. These snipers, JTACs, we can control aircraft for you. We can pre-plan air, and this is what we can offer. How can this augment you? How can this help? And I'm sure this happened before, but that was the first time that I was involved in something like that, and had a great relationship. Colonel Rainey was the guy's name. He must be a general now, or probably retired now. But I had a great relationship with him, and we just got after it for 11 days out there. It was great. It was absolutely incredible.
How many team guys did you have with you?
We had 6, I think, and then we had some Polish Grom guys, and then Marsoc Det 1 because they were part of that deployment with us. It was the I guess trial run or whatever you call it.
No, those guys turned over with me in Baghdad,
okay.
And because when you guys got to Baghdad from your team, You went to Mosul.
Yep, first.
And I was down in Baghdad doing a turnover with the MARSOC guys, which
it.
I knew a bunch of the MARSOC guys from the old days of doing shipboard deployments with them, and they were a bunch of awesome guys.
Yeah, awesome.
And then, and then I went home, and then I guess you came down to Baghdad right before I went home.
Take the PSD thing, take that mission, and while that was going on, while we were standing that thing up, and I learned a ton there too, because you're like, what are we doing? We're protecting the interim Iraqi government officials, and we're not turning over with anybody because it hasn't been done before. And the last guy before Alawi just got blown up by an IED. Okay, let's do this. Let's figure it out.
Rock and roll.
And so I mean, we started with one computer and my CO from Team 2, and I was at that computer, just like he'd be talking to me, dictating things and putting together the mission, blah blah blah, and I was just learning and chiming in where I could, where I thought I could help.
So you were there when PSD got stood up.
Yeah, with one computer in one small office, and then it grew into this huge monstrosity, which it eventually became. But still learned a lot. Yeah. But that also meant that I was an extra dude as we kind of figured out what was going on. And then I got to go up and help out with MARSOC Det 1, because one of their guys had to go back and do something. So I got to go up and help them out for a little bit on the intel side of the house for a few weeks. And while I was there, that's when the JOF kicked off. And they're like, we need snipers. And so they just grabbed snipers and threw us together. Yes.
Boom.
Awesome.
Score.
Awesome. Yep. I remember the CO of Team 1. So he was attached to that MARSOC thing. So I was essentially working for Team 1 at the time. And I remember him distinctly calling me in, because I was the O, and I was taking these guys to do this thing that was kind of ambiguous. We're taking over a city as part of a bigger campaign with 27 Cav. And he said, hey, whatever you do, and whatever this means, I didn't really know what it meant. I just nodded. But he's like, whatever you do, don't go forward to friendly lines. And I was like, okay, like what does it even mean? So within hours of being on the ground, we are pushing forward, pushing the enemy back, going up, getting high ground, and calling in the Bradleys and Abrams and coordinating all that stuff. So right away, I'm disobeying his order and getting the job done, because that's what it took. You know? But it was incredible to work with those guys, and it was a hodgepodge of people. It wasn't just 27 Cav. It was Army National Guard units. It was air from everywhere, all coming together, working together for the first time and making this thing happen and pushing the enemy back towards the Imam Ali Mosque, which is one of the holiest sites in all of Islam. And on that 11th day, we had that place, all of them in the Imam Ali Mosque. So we worked every day. We'd push forward a little bit and then go up, take the high ground. Everybody'd come up. We'd do that. Maybe they'd be there for a day. The water would come up. The food would come up. That Army logistics train would keep us moving. And then we'd push forward again. And it was incredible to be part of that and help out where we could. But then, of course, we have them right where we want them. And as a brand new guy, I just want to bomb it. I want to drop a bomb on the Imam Ali Mosque. Looking back, probably not the right decision.
That would not have been.
No. And but Matar al-Sadr's in there.
Cool tactical call, but not the best strategic call.
No, definitely. Now, in hindsight, and with what I've studied since, bombing one of the holiest sites in all of Islam probably would not have been the right move. So that was denied. But Matar al-Sadr was in there. All the Mahdi militia was in there, and then they did some sort of a peace agreement, ceasefire-ish thing or whatever, and then we got to watch them all leave and turn their weapons over to the Iraqi National Guard or somebody, and that was the end of that. So, and then we dealt with the repercussions for a while, but it was a good tactical experience. Because I got to come back and talk about having sniper weapon systems, but also being able to have a red dot on those things to clear rooms, because we were clearing rooms, and then using those same weapon systems to set up and do the job. So, I got to bring a lot of different ways to make the little what we call loopholes or whatever in the walls, and all that sort of thing. So got to bring back and share a lot of that experience.
How much longer was deployment once you got done with that?
I think like a month or so.
Okay.
So it was kind of like,
Yeah, you were just like so stoked.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And so it was a formative experience. And then it was they called it wasn't the surge, but in the SEAL teams we called it the surge. So we got to deploy a year later instead of a year and a half later. Is really all that meant. So I got to get right back after it. Which was
because then you came home.
Yeah.
Now did you get platoon commander? Was it your platoon commander?
So now I'm a second O, the assistant.
Now you're the official assistant.
Working my way up.
The second O.
Now I'm in charge of 8 guys.
Which is actually awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, you're super stoked. You're like, I just had that awesome deployment.
Yep.
And now I get to do another assistant platoon commander.
Pretty much.
No factor. And this time you got to do an actual workup, or you did a workup the first time too?
Ish, but I was that third O, so I was doing admin stuff here and there, and it wasn't quite the way it is today, where you're only doing admin stuff as that kind of guy attached to the task unit head shed or whatever. But essentially, I was doing a ton of the admin.
But you're still
stuff.
doing you still did the workup.
Yeah,
you still went to CQC. You still went to Mount. You still went to Land Warfare.
Not all of them.
Oh, really?
No, because I had my deployment with the other East Coast team in there. I came back. I did Haiti when that went down because I was an extra guy, so I got to go down there, which was pretty cool.
You make a good strap hanger, huh? You got one of those guys that kind of like.
And I obviously didn't plan it like that. I was always kind of like, oh man, I'm not in I'm not the second. I'm not in an AOIC.
You're giving Good Deal Dave Burke a run for his money.
It was not a bad time to be just a dude hanging out that they could grab at any time. And of course, I'm like, hey, can you go? Yep.
Yeah.
Of course I can go. Hey, sweetie, I'm leaving this afternoon for Haiti.
So now you're doing an actual workup. You get to do all the training, everything. And then you go on deployment, and you go back to Iraq again.
Yep. And hit Ramadi this time.
Sweet.
So going into Ramadi.
So now it's 05. It's
05, yep. Fall of 05. And that's where we wanted to be. Yeah. And of course it changes throughout that workup. You're going here, you're going there, whatever. But I forget at what time it turned to you were going to Ramadi now. But that's where you wanted to be in 05, 06.
For sure.
And so we got to get in there. And it was interesting because I forget if there was someone there before us or not. I don't know why I can't remember if there was a turnover. There must have been somebody there, but it doesn't stand out in my head anyway.
I think it was a much smaller depth before you guys were there.
Maybe. Yeah, and I wasn't part of that initial, that first, when the head shed goes over first, like the head shed went over and then I was the senior guy that came over with the rest of the guys.
Got it.
So I didn't really do, when we got there, most everyone was gone and it was just time to figure it out. So we got to do a few cool things, like going out with the Marines, dressing up like a Marine, getting left behind to do the sniper stuff. Not exactly what you guys did because you guys really got after it, but baby steps. Yeah,
right on.
So it was, going out with the Marines in the day, doing those patrols, like where the IED threat is high, and one of the most dangerous cities in the world at the time. Like that was legit.
Yeah. That's a get some evolution.
Yeah. Or just being on the base, essentially. I mean, with mortars coming in at night, and I didn't stay in that whatever the building. The building. Yeah. I stayed out in the tents with the guys. Yeah. There's nothing there to protect you from a mortar coming in. Like you're just sleeping and all of a sudden it's going to land on you. So.
Yeah. Mortars suck.
Yeah.
Well, on the receiving end anyways.
Yep.
And then during that deployment as well, you also went to Baghdad and worked with an Indige force there too.
Yep. So that's why I didn't see you in turnover. Got to do the second thing in my time in the military that was the most formative, and go do some stuff in Baghdad with
doing DAs basically.
Yep, doing that with a kind of more of a civilian type organization, and with a little less, oversight, you'd say. So I loved it. Just it fit my personality and my drive, I guess. Like it was a perfect fit for me at that time. And actually, one of the things that happened during that time was the inspiration for the second book. One of the guys that I met there, one of the Iraqis that I was working with. That was a great time. Learned a ton. We're right there next to guys from Great Britain, other Army guys from their premier special operations unit. And we're doing stuff together and we're training together. And
you guys had a really good op tempo, if I remember correctly.
It was a good time to be part of that. Yeah. So I had a blast doing that. Learned a ton, and I got to stay active. Got to stay getting after it. Not every night, but good op tempo.
Good op tempo. And then you wrap up that deployment. Which again, these are you got some choice deployments.
I got a few good ones. Yeah,
choice deployments.
It was a good time to be in. My timing was good there. But then I get back, so now I've done 5 deployments in a row.
And you're married?
I'm married. Yep, got married after that first deployment.
And what's the kid count at this point?
We are at 1.
Okay.
1. And then 2 for the next one, and then 3 for the next
one. So what'd you do when you got home from that deployment to? With when you got done with your assistant platoon commander tour.
So this is where my good deal train ends, and I get back, and now I've done 5 deployments in a row, if you count the enlisted ones. 3 as an officer, all of them getting after it. And they're like, you need to go somewhere and get some professional development.
Oh yeah, they did. Somebody caught wind of your scam, and they're putting a halt on that thing.
Yep. And so my XO had been the OPSO in Germany. So he's like, you need to go to Germany. And you need to learn what a unit does. I'm like, Unit 2? What?
Yeah.
Like, that's a place to be in 1944. That's where I want to be, not in 2007. And so I went kicking and screaming, and I probably should have just said Roger that, but I've 5 deployments in a row, and those last 3 being fairly intense. I didn't want my guys to go back without me. I felt like I'm abandoning them to go to Germany and go like taste wine and look at like castle walls in these different towns like that. No, but you got to go. But since I'd worked with that other government agency, I got kind of, I guess you'd say, recruited by them. And while I'm waiting to go to Germany, I go up to DC and do my bunch of tests that they put you through up there, and get a class update to go to that organization. And so I get to Germany. I'm there for a few months. It's horrible. Well, they sent me to French language school first because they thought I was going to go to North Africa, West Africa.
How long is French language school?
6 months.
Okay, not too bad.
6 months. That was actually good. Good family time, all that stuff. But I still wanted to be in Iraq or Afghanistan.
Straight up DLI in Monterey.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep. Luckily, I was at an offsite, so I didn't have to go on base. So that was good. So that was, I guess,
another keeping it good.
Yep. And of course, now I find out about CrossFit. So I found out about CrossFit in Ramadi. So now I'm just crushing the CrossFit, and people think I'm insane because no one really had seen that yet. It's 2006, 2007, and they're like, "What?" Especially outside of the SEAL teams or outside of firefighters and all that stuff. Just the regular gym, they see you doing all the swinging barbells around like they're kettlebell or whatever. So I'm getting in shape. I'm training for my next whatever deployment, trying to make myself better. But we go to Germany, get there, hate it. A lot of people there were loving it, and that made me hate it even more. And I probably should have just said, "This is where the government needs me, so I'm going to do the best I can while I'm here." And I did the best I could, but you're not doing anything. It was awful. I shouldn't say that. It is a very important place to be, and they have a mission, and that's great. But it wasn't for me. So I dropped my papers to get out, to go to that, because I always wanted to get back to what I was doing in Iraq and Baghdad, 2006, getting it. And so I dropped my papers and was going to just get out and go do that. And then like 2 weeks later, the CO called me back in and says, "Hey, there's an OIC at Team 7, got out. There's a spot open. Do you want it?" And I was not expecting that at all. And I said, "Whoa." My mind was already set. I was essentially mentally, I was out. I was training. I was getting ready to go back downrange with this other group. And so I went home, talked to my wife. She was pregnant again with our second child, and we decided to stay in. I'm like, okay, I can get back after to do that leadership role that I became an officer to have, and we went to Team 7, and that's where I met you. Right on. So now I get my first taste of Jocko and some actual professional development that mattered. And it up until that point, it was baptism by fire. Like, you show up at Team 2, hey, you're going to Afghanistan. Boom. No training other than the T-shirt folding and underwear folding at OCS. But luckily, I had some really good guys on those deployments that had already been to Afghanistan, that took me under their wing, that showed me how here's how these nods work. The point man only had them in your last platoons before September 11th. Here's how you use these things.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way it used to be. It was OJT and the young junior officers, or even the young enlisted guys. You just get trained by the more experienced guys, and that works great if you're lucky enough to have a good experienced guy that has the desire to teach you, that really cares about the job, that wants to do a good job, that recognizes the importance of leadership, and then it works fine.
Yep.
The problem is it doesn't always work like that.
Right.
So you get a guy that's a knucklehead, you get a guy that doesn't care. You can just end up in a bad situation, and then some young kids, we're young, we're influential. What?
Close.
We're very easily influenced.
Yeah.
And we see how a bad leader acts, and they tell us that that's how we're supposed to act, and we start acting that way. It's I've seen that happen many times. I'd meet a guy that would be coming through my training, and like he wouldn't quite be a good leader. And I'd say, we'd just be talking to him like, "Oh, who was your platoon chief when you were a new guy?" And they'd name a guy, and I'd say, "Okay, well, you could very easily find the root problems here."
Right.
Or I'd get I'd get a platoon commander, and I'd say, "Well, who was your platoon commander when you were in AOIC?" And they'd give a name, and the guy would be a bad leader, and he'd say, "Okay, well, I know where you got this from," and they'd give me the ability to actually steer them in the right direction and say, "Hey." I wouldn't be offensive about their old boss or anything, but I'd start like saying, "Hey, there's another way to look at these things." So, yeah, sure.
Yep.
But it sounds like, but you got lucky. You had some good leadership. I mean, I know who your CO was at Team 2. He's freaking outstanding.
Yep.
And yeah, so you had some good, you had some great mentorship.
Yeah, and he cared about it. He cared about mentorship. For
sure.
And the senior guys that he brought with him from his other command also cared about those senior chiefs. They cared about what the next generation of both enlisted and officers were going to do and how they were going to lead. And so I was very fortunate to be the recipient of that mentorship and that guidance.
Yeah.
And that served me well. And I had a good foundation anyway, but having that, have somebody that cared, that put a little structure. I mean, not a little structure behind it was refreshing. And I just took all that on board and just want to be the best leader I could for my guys. Yeah. But now at Team 7, so it was a great experience as an OIC, but most of that was due to the training that you brought. And so now I got to professionalize things a little bit, think about them. And now my deployment, my good deal train, I thought ended. And it spiked a little bit, and we thought, we're going back to Afghanistan. Yes, and it's going to be you guys because you got anyway. So it didn't end up being my platoon. So I got to go to the PI, got to go to the Philippines, and at first I'm like, that's a bummer, but it ended up being a great experience. At an outstation, had more special forces guys working for me than I had SEALs working for me. Had multiple outstations that reported to me, and we were there to assist. The assist and advise type thing, but it was with a Philippine Marine general, and he'd been down there fighting that insurgency in the Southern Island chain since he was an ensign or whatever a second lieutenant. Yeah. And so I took the role of student with him. And amazing guy, and I really learned the area, learned what they were up against, learned how the enemy was adapting to them, and how it had changed over his 30-some years of doing that. And of course, he was mentored because they've been doing that for over 100+ years. They've been fighting that thing. So he was a recipient of mentorship and lessons from the people that came before him. And I took that time because I noticed that the SF guys, the Army SF guys, particularly the warrant officer that was there with me, knew a lot more about counterinsurgency than I did. Like I had the tactical kick in the door, I had that experience, but I didn't have that broader piece yet. And so I took that time in the Philippines to study and read a ton. And who are the foremost experts on counterinsurgency out there? Where are they? How do I get in touch with them? Do they have anything I can read? And so I just really schooled myself up. And so it became a kind of a competition between me and him in discussions about counterinsurgencies worldwide, but particularly where we are, but how that applies more broadly. So I took it as a time to, and we did get to go they got to do some things down there, the Phil Marines with us, just, helping with some more technical things, but they got to get after it, and they lost guys, and we were there doing the medevac and doing all that sort of thing. The bodies lined up, the whole deal, and it was it ended up being a very I guess another formative experience for me. And then I got to use what I learned about working with the Army once again, but in my next deployment as a troop commander, where once again I went back to Iraq and had more SF guys working under my command than I had SEALs. Yeah. So it was good. It was a good run.
So you went through that workup when you were a platoon commander in 2008? 8?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was pretty settled in because I'd come home in 2006, and 2007 I took over the training. So yeah. We were going hard.
Oh yeah. Yeah, my first experience, I heard all about this Jocko guy. I'm like, what? Who is this guy? And the first time I met you, you walked in to that room, that briefing room at Fort Knox, the stadium seating, and they have the diorama things up with the sand tables up front. Yeah. And you came in and gave us this talk, and I was like, dang. Yeah, let's go get it. It was awesome. But I had one of my more formative experience in training in that particular urban warfare environment thing, where you probably remember the scenario because you probably did it for most of the platoons and troops coming through. But you have a mission, and you go out there and you're doing that mission. And I'm the ground force commander now, the GFC, and I'm there in my vehicle, and a helicopter crashes like a few buildings down, a few blocks down, and that comes over there. They're radioing for help. for a couple blocks away, and we still have guys in the building. Now our guys are taking contact in the building, and it's all set up, whatever. Yeah. And I'm hearing that, and I'm not going. I'm going to deal with this problem first. We're going to prioritize and execute. Sure. Yes, but I wasn't quite doing that yet. I'm listening to the radio, and I'm hearing they have a woman screaming, a helicopter pilot, female, screaming like, they're surrounding us, the whole thing, and like, what do I do? And I split my force. Oh. Yeah, I split my force. Oh, yeah. And so, hey, these two vehicles breaking off. You're going to go to the crash site, secure the crash site. We'll then meet you at that crash site, and we'll exfil together. So you know what happens next.
Oh, yes, I do.
Disaster strikes. Everything goes fine. And that was the point of the exercise, I think. If you split your force, I don't know if it happens every time, but in this case, it did. It turned up being a disaster. And we get out, we leave guys behind, we have to go back in, the whole thing. It was great. It was great. But I remember sitting down with you afterward, and it really drove home. Yeah, prioritize and execute. And if you split your force, you better have a damn good reason to split that force.
Just had a guy named John Stryker Meyer on the podcast. Yeah. The last podcast, you couldn't have heard it yet because it's not out yet. But he's telling a story. He's in Vietnam, and this guy's just incredible. SOG, just the most insane stories ever. And he's telling a story, and he goes, yeah, so I split my forces, and I put 4 guys on one side of the valley and 4 guys on the other side of the valley. And we started moving, and I had to find out, bro, because I mean this is disturbing to me.
Right.
And so I said, I was like, hey, explain to me, what made you decide to split your forces? I said, and he goes, I split, no, this is what he said. He goes, I split my forces 2 times in Vietnam. Other than that, it's a horrible idea because I didn't even like doing it here. I didn't have a choice. So that is a true statement. If you can avoid splitting your forces, avoid splitting your forces. And if you have to, you better have a damn good plan. You better have a damn good reason. Because when you add enemy fire into it, trying to link up forces, friendly forces under enemy fire, I believe that's the hardest thing to do in combat. I think that's the hardest thing to do in combat is separate forces trying to link up with enemy contacts.
Right.
Is a freaking nightmare.
Yep.
And so if you can avoid it, avoid it.
Yep. I had to do that in Baghdad once with a QRF that we'd just talked to on the radio before, and so that was a little dicey. But yeah, that not splitting your forces, prioritizing, executing. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that experience. And luckily, up until that point, I hadn't been in a situation where I had to do it downrange because I probably would have done it. But after that training, I was like, I would think long and hard. Yeah. Maybe not long and hard. I would think it through.
Think it through.
Before doing that.
Hard. It's a tough move to make.
Yep. That was a great one.
For me, coming back from Ramadi, I was super paranoid about stuff and really into the fact that I wanted people to not make dumb mistakes that I made or that I could have made or that I saw other people make. So I was pretty adamant to make sure that guys were learning lessons.
Oh yeah. No, it was amazing. That training was great. And then we went to Nyland, of course, and did the land warfare thing. And I was very comfortable with that because we'd a team on the East Coast. We'd done that IMT, individual movement technique, earlier on, I guess, maybe than the West Coast. So I had it. I'd done it a couple times already. So some of my junior officers that had never done it before, and they were like, "What are we doing? What? It's not just online and just the old school." So they didn't quite get it, but I was, as a platoon commander, I was very comfortable with that at Nyland. So, and it was obviously amazing training, especially with the technology that came along at that time, where there was no hiding from any mistakes that you might have made out there. You got the GPS on you, and you go back and you debrief it. There's none of that old school '90s no, that wasn't me. I think it was so and so over there. I would never do something like that. Oh no, here it is. Here's your number, whatever it was on there, and you can watch it all in the debrief. And
watch your little what's that term?
Icon or
your little icon move around on the battlefield, and watch your little icon engage your own forces.
Yep. Oh
you have to watch that over and over again.
Right. Yep. No, exactly. And then going through the second time, things evolve and change and all that. But going through the second time as a troop commander, then I was even more comfortable with it, particularly in those situations. I knew the lessons we wanted to get out of there, and then I could do it a little better even than when I was a platoon commander because I'd already learned some of those in those particular scenarios. But that was amazing training, and there's no question the impact that has had on the SEAL teams for the in a positive way.
carried some down men, did you, at Nyland?
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Down. Everyone's down. Everybody.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It was
a lot of down men drills.
Yeah. It was a lot of that. I mean, especially, and then what was cool for me, and people always remember that, but or they talk to me about it, and sometimes even then, you know, this is too much, you know, and the fact of the matter is, if your leadership did a good job inside of a task unit or inside of a troop, if the leadership did a good job and they used decentralized command and the fire team leaders got up and made things happen and they kept things simple, like if they did those things, the TRADEC cadre couldn't put a bunch of people down because they would get their asses kicked by the troop. The troop would crush them. And, you know, that would usually not happen early on because they would have to figure this out. But once they got good at it, like the TRADEC guys would say, you know, they'd be calling up myself or the Master Chief running it and be like, hey, can you bring me back to life? Can you bring me back to life? And be like, no, man, you got killed. Of course, sometimes we would bring them back to life to press the platoon harder. Of course, I'm not going to claim that we didn't do that because damn, we're going to put the pressure.
Yeah.
But
No, yeah, so then that was amazing. The down man drills, get you in shape, but then it gets people pissed off. That guy came back to life, and you're pissed, and you're not making good decisions.
Yeah, totally.
And and the other thing it's that you taught me, and I passed on, and that I still think about today, and it's in the book. Take a breath, look around, make a call. As easy as that. It's like I think about that a lot. Like all I got to do is sit back, get off my gun, look around, what's going on, what's the tactical situation. And make a call. Yeah. That's it.
So simple, so not easy. So not easy to do. But it's cool when someone like for someone like yourself that's a sniper that likes to shoot, and all of a sudden you're a task unit commander, it's real easy to go right back to what you're super comfortable with, which is, hey, I'll just get on my gun and start killing bad guys. But you got 40 other guys that are doing that.
Yep.
And none of those 40 guys are actually making a decision about where you're going to go next to save everyone. So you're the guy that has to do it. So that's a good one.
Yep,
for sure.
When I look back at old pictures, I see how my loadout changed over the years, and how by the time I was a troop commander, I'm a lot lighter. Well, I have radios now. I have two of them.
You're carrying radios.
But my mags, I'm like, only 3 and 1 in the gun or whatever it was. But there's a reason for that. Yeah. It's because my job is now to control this element and crush the enemy, not to be on the trigger.
And then. What was that deployment like? Where'd you go as a TU commander?
So that was interesting because it was the withdrawal from Iraq.
Okay.
So we were there 6 months, but it was because we didn't know if we were staying, if we were going, if we were staying, what our authorities were going to be, where we were going to be based. There was a lot of questions. So we had to prepare both to stay long term and to get up, pack, and come home, which is what ended up happening. So I think they made our element actually ended up leaving at the end of November, I guess. There was another month there, but it was packing up and going home essentially. But you're working with a partner force and you're using your technical intelligence to try to prosecute targets so that it wasn't going to become a highway of death on the way out of there as the enemy just sets IEDs.
Did you drive out of there?
No, we flew.
You guys flew out? No, they drove out pretty peacefully too.
Yeah.
It was just a big, massive convoy. All right, see you later.
Exactly. It was not what we expected. But it was cool for a little bit because you got, I think they got a little more liberal with some of the targets there for a while when they're like, okay, we don't want this highway of death. That's not going to be on me because I denied. I didn't want to let a unilateral op go when we're leaving anyway. Yeah. So it got for a little. We got to do a couple ops, but mostly it was a leadership challenge to keep the guys focused on their mission while at the same time getting ready to go home for almost the entire deployment. So it was an interesting time. That was Basra, southern Iraq. So I hadn't been down there before. The Brits had been there first, of course. Yeah. Totally different terrain than anything I'd dealt with before, and it was good. It was an interesting deployment. Had a great senior chief, and who's still in crushing it. And came home, and that was the last time I'd ever tactically lead guys on the battlefield, and I knew that. And pretty much as soon as we were airborne on the way home, I'm like, getting out.
So that was it, huh? How many years were you out at that point?
I think I was at 16 right there.
And what was your family situation at this time?
So 3 kids, and it was during the second work. So in my OIC workup, the one where I met you and then went to the Philippines, that's when our middle child was born, and we found out, I think it was at the 8-month checkup, that something wasn't quite right. And he ended up, well, I'll get to what he has, but we didn't know what was going on. He wasn't eating, wasn't meeting milestones. There was something off, and my wife knew right away. But I was just like, oh, he's just a kid. He'll eat when he's hungry, that sort of thing. And we didn't know what was happening. So all during that second of that deployment, they put me in that exceptional family member category 5 because he was, pretty severely disabled, and which means that you're not going anywhere outside of your current medical situation for your family. So it essentially takes the decision out of the service member's hands, which is a good thing.
Meaning you're going to stay. You were in San Diego.
You're staying
so
there.
That exceptional service member thing says, okay, we got to take care of this guy. He's going to stay in San Diego.
Yep. So there's different levels to it, but ours was the most severe.
They did that during your OIC tour or during your TU Commander tour?
I think during the TU Commander tour. The first, we're still trying to figure out what was going on during that first one, and nobody knew what was going on with him. So it's a lot of doctor visits, all that sort of thing. But my wife did it all because, as you know, when you're in, that pendulum has to be on the team. That's your responsibility as a leader. You owe it to the mission, you owe it to the guys, you owe it to their families, you owe it to the country, ultimately, to have that be your sole focus. And that's how it was. The pendulum is over there, and my wife got that. That's what you do as a leader, obviously. So when I got back, we still don't know. So now I've done 2 workups with this situation, 2 deployments with this situation. My wife's handled it the whole time, super strong. Get back, and I go to Buds as the OPSO. So now I get to see people ring the bell outside that office and put the helmet down. But in my head, I know I'm done. And I didn't hide it. A lot of guys will hide it if they're planning on getting out. They won't say anything to anybody in the chain of command because they might stay in or whatever it is. But I'm like, yep, I'm getting out at 20. And they're like, no, you gotta go be an XO. No, I'm getting out at 20. And it kind of surprised people when I'd say that. Because Buds is a machine. That thing's running. And as an OPSO, it's fairly, I don't know, it's not as dynamic, let's say, as at a SEAL team. And it was during that, well, a little after that someone told Ross Perot our story, the Ross Perot in Texas, the guy. And so... About
your son.
Yeah, about our son.
Because you still didn't know what was going on.
Right, so this is 6 years.
Taken to a bunch of different hospitals,
and
then he's 6 years old.
Yep, no idea what's happening. All sorts of different diagnoses. Was paid for Cedar Sinai, going up there, who we thought were the foremost experts, doing oxygen. My wife would take him to an oxygen tank for 30 days, 2 hours a day or whatever it was that we paid for, just to see if anything would help. Someone tells Ross Perot our story, and this is December of 2013, I want to say, and I get a call out of the blue from Ross Perot, who sounds exactly like Dana Carvey impersonating Ross Perot in the 90s, and I'm like, what is going on? And he's like, we're gonna fix your son. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, we're gonna send the jet. I'm gonna assemble a team of doctors here in Texas, and we're gonna fix him. And then he hangs up. I'm like, what just happened? That was wild. And about an hour later, his lead doctor at Southwestern Medical Center calls and says, hey, I know Mr. Perot just called you. We're not going to send the jet tomorrow, but we are going to send it. And in the meantime, send us everything you have on your son, any medical records. And we'll assemble a team of genetic specialists here that will take a look at everything, and we'll bring you guys in for some testing and see what we can do. And it's like, wow, amazing. So a month later, they send the jet, G550 lands, and we get on and head off to Texas and go do a week of testing in Dallas. And they sent our blood all around the world and found a genetic specialist in the Netherlands who had just discovered the certain genetic mutation that helps form the brain at birth. And now it has a name to it. It's the 3 doctors that discovered this. But when we found out about it, he was the 13th person in the world. So number 13 in the world they found with this. And it was just called NR2F1, which is the gene that this mutation affects. And being able to put a name to it for us, especially for my wife, that was so liberating. I can't really describe what it means, just to put a name to it. It seems like a simple thing, but not knowing for 6 years and then being able to put a name to it and know that, hey, this is just one of those random, freaky things that happens, and there's nothing you could have done about it. And That's it. Just we got to put a name to it. So it was like, Roger that. Okay, now what do we do? And for us, that's our mission in life. He gave us purpose, and that purpose and mission is to make sure that he reaches his full potential, whatever that may be. But he needs 24/7 full-time care for life. So, and we have 2 kids bracketing him on either side. So the real challenge is raising those kids so that their childhood is not solely defined by their brother's condition. And hopefully it makes us all more loving, more compassionate people. And so far it's worked out that way. But once again, my wife still bears the brunt of that every day because I'm out here. Mm-hmm. I'm having a nice dinner last night. I'm here hanging out with you. And she's at home dealing with that.
Me sound like the bad guy.
All right, let's just say I go on book tour. How about that? I go on 2 weeks of book tour, and I'm shaking hands and saying hi and all that. And she's got it.
The wives are incredible. Mine included. She raised 4 kids, and I was barely ever around. So, same thing with every guy that we have on here that talks about what their wives had to. And I think Jason Gardner, when he was on, he said the first time he was on, he said put up with. His wife had to put up with a lot, and then he came back on and said like he didn't mean it like that. It's like actually had the strength to handle is what the appropriate statement is. Hey, the wives that stick around, which isn't a big number,
right?
Most women don't have the strength to get through this and deal with this kind of thing. But obviously your wife is a saint, and as is mine. And like, okay, you're gonna be gone all the time. Cool, I got this. I'm gonna handle it. So.
Yep. And that's how it has to be. So now, hopefully the pendulum is not quite like this. Like I'm not dealing with life and death situations, so I can help out a little more. But I'm still, this is an entrepreneurial type venture. Writing is not just writing in a cave somewhere and sending it off to New York. It's everything that goes along with building a small business. So right now it's a full-on sprint. We have momentum, and I don't really have any other speed besides just all in. So building this thing, but it's not like you're deploying for 6 months. Although things do shift now. So now, even a 2-week trip, that's like a 6-month deployment, relatively now, because it's not the country asking you to do this. You don't owe it to the guys or the mission anymore, type thing. But I'm super fortunate to have the wife that I do. She's so strong, and our son he's 11 now, and really has the mental capacity of a 2-year-old, I'd say, and. But with only so few people in the world diagnosed with this, I think now they're probably must be in the 70s now. Mm-hmm. But he just every day is still a struggle, and but that's our mission. We got him for a reason, and I look at it as we got him because we're strong enough to handle it, and that's I don't know how else you do look at it. I don't really know.
And then, so as this is going on, was that one of the things that made you think about getting out of the Navy?
Oh, yeah. So I didn't think about it while I was doing that OIC platoon or doing my troop commander tour because I was just all in. But once I got back, like when that plane took off, when we landed in San Diego, and I took a breath, realized I'm going to BUDS. I see guys running on the beach, doing the BUDS thing. That's not why I came in. I came in to do the job. I'd done the job. Now I owe it to my family to let that pendulum go back and take care of them. So it was very obvious to me. It wasn't something I struggled with. I think a lot of guys like, should I stay in? Should I get out? A hard time with that transition. Mine was not difficult. Neither was the decision to get out because I was handed my next mission, really, which is taking care of the family and especially our middle child. So in that respect, my transition, easy is the wrong word, but I knew what I needed to do.
The decision was clear.
Yep. There was no wavering.
And then you knew from your childhood that the job you were going to take, the job you were going to go after you retired was going to be a writer.
Yep. And of course you can't say that, especially at that time in the SEAL teams, the Bin Laden stuff is going on and all that. So that's when I played very close to the chest, I'd say, to the vest. So I knew what I wanted to do my whole life. I didn't think about it while I was in the teams. It was just like, that's what I'm going to do next. Yeah. That's the amount of thought I put into writing when I was in the teams. But everything that I read growing up was part of that education. All the reading nonfiction that I did on insurgencies and terrorism, all that fed into it, and all the personal experience downrange. So it's almost like I could not be more prepared for what I'm doing now as a writer. But I didn't during those last couple of years, I was just like, okay, OPSO at Buds, then to junior officer training course, OIC, which was great, but it was only for a couple months, but I loved that because you get to pass on some lessons and then move on out. But that last year in the Navy, and I think I've heard you talk about this before, and that you didn't do all these things that you're supposed to do when you get out. Like I had went into the what are the TAPS, whatever that course is. It was awful. Like I did all those things that you're supposed to do. You didn't do any, I know. I heard you say that. I'm like, you could. How did you get out of that? Well, no one's going to tell you what's. I mean, you're a big dude. You're not. No one's going to tell you got to do this. But I did that course, and I went to medical, and I went to dental, and I did all the signatures, and I got my paperwork in order. And that was like the whole last year in the Navy. Had some spine surgery. Had spine surgery in there last year. Yeah, so that was good. And so got all that taken care of. But it's during that time where I'm like, okay, my job's to get out of the Navy now. Well, now I'm going to start thinking about this writing thing. And that's when I wrote down about 7 different ideas, put them on the table in front of me, like 1-page synopsis type things. And I chose the one that I thought would resonate with people the most. And that's that theme of revenge, because that's has resonated with me as a kid growing up, both in movies and books. And it's something that just resonates with people in general, is that theme for whatever reason. So I knew the first book that would be the theme of the first novel.
And then when did you start actually writing it?
During that last year. So yeah, outline, synopsis, started writing, title came really quickly, all that sort of thing. But then submitted it. So I got out summer of 2016 was my retirement, and submitted it to Simon & Schuster in the fall of 2016. And I got very lucky, very, very lucky in that a friend calls me out of the blue and he says, hey, do you know this author Brad Thor? And I said, oh, yeah, of course I know him. And he said, well, I know you're writing this book. Do you want to talk to him? Maybe he has some advice for you. And I said, will he talk to me? And he said, let me set it up. Yeah. It's a former SEAL who's out in the finance world now. And they sat next to each other at some fundraiser or something. And so I get on the phone with this Brad Thor guy, and he could not have been more generous with his time. It was kind of like an interview. It was kind of like a why do you want to write type thing. That was the underlying kind of theme of our conversation. And I think he wanted to make sure I was doing it for the right reasons. And I told him the truth about my mom being a librarian and reading all this stuff growing up and all these authors I loved and wanting to do this forever. And he's like, all right, I'm not going to help you as you go along. So don't send me chapters, don't ask me questions. But if you write a book, if you finish a book, I will let Simon & Schuster know that it's coming. Can't guarantee they'll open it. Definitely can't guarantee that they'll like it if they read it. But as a thank you, your friend told me some of the things you did in the teams, and as a thank you for that, I will let them know it's coming. And I'm like, roger that. And he said, when are you going to be done? I said, 1 year from today. And called him back 1 year to the day later. And I was like, hey, do you remember me? And he sure did. And I said, it's done. And he said, well, is it done? He says, the best it can possibly be. And I was like, well, nope, I can still work on it a little more, but it's done. He said, well, call me back when it's the best that it can possibly be. And I said, roger that. So I took another 4 months of reading, editing, rewriting, getting it to, if you held on to it for 10 years, you could probably make it better by degree. But I mean, it was at that stage where it was ready for another set of eyes. And called him back 4 months later, and he said, okay, I'll let my editor know it's coming, and shipped it off. And she read it. Next thing you know, I'm on a plane to New York, and we're having coffee, and I think she wanted to make sure I wasn't a crazy person. And she said, hey, I want this thing, but you need an agent. And I'm like, well, how do you get one of those? And so she introduced me to 4 agents, and then I chose one. Next thing you know, we're off to the races. So I got very lucky.
Yeah, that's awesome. It does take a little bit of luck. How do you actually mechanically write? Like, what do you actually do?
Yep. So all those 7 different synopses that I had ahead of time, where I picked the one, now all those other ones are turning in to these next novels, even though I might have had different characters or whatever. I can morph those ones. So I have about 7 different novels in the pipe ready to go. So start with that idea, the synopsis, like a 1-page or 2-pager, then an outline. And then as I write, I fill in that outline because new ideas come up, new chapters, new characters, and I add it to that outline. And it was in Word up until very recently. So I have a visual representation.
What'd you switch to from Word?
To Scrivener.
Oh, okay.
Which I'll get to here in a second. Game changing. So yeah, in Word, so you're scrolling, copying and pasting, moving chapters around, and then because I don't want to cut and then have it disappear because I'm nervous. Is it backed up? Oh my god. So I fill in that out.
That paranoia.
Exactly. Don't want to cut and paste. I want to copy
it just in case.
Just in case.
The power goes out at that moment.
Something. I hit the wrong thing and it's gone. So I fill in that outline until I'd say about 75%. And then it becomes not as efficient for me to continue to just have an outline that's now very complete. Now I can just transition to just the story about that point. But yeah, recently I found out about this thing, Scrivener, and that it's set up very much like Word, but it's broken down by chapter. So you can drag and drop chapters and see how it looks. You can have each one of those chapters have a synopsis, so it shows up as essentially like a card or a yellow sticky, and you're looking at this whole thing and think, oh, you know what? Chapter 6 should really be chapter 3. Drag, drop, and you can move in research. So you can drag in articles from online, pictures, video into research folders. So it's all right there. Instead of like, what file was that? Did I copy?
You are like a day late and 8 books too late for me at this point. Seriously, like that sounds like brilliant.
Yeah.
And I could so use that. And I just finished my 8th book.
Nice.
So that sucks. 'Cause that sounds awesome.
For 9.
Yeah.
You know?
For 9,
yep.
which I started yesterday.
Yep, and you can import from Word. So I had about half of the.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so you import from Word, and it breaks it into chapters. You just put an icon and let it know whatever that little symbol is, where you want the chapter breaks.
And then can you export it back to Word?
And I haven't done that yet. So I will be doing that in the next couple weeks for book 3. But I have not actually. I've imported from Word. I have not exported. So
but you can.
You can. Yep. They say you can in the tutorial video, and they show you how. But I have not yet done that.
Check.
Yeah,
I'm all over it
because my editor likes it in Word. So
before we nerd out too hard on this, we'll move on to something else.
Yeah.
So you get done with these, and what did you do with your family once you retired? Because you had the mission of your kid and your kids. Mm-hmm. You had the mission now that you got to finish this book. Did you finish that book while you were still active duty?
Nope. So finished it just 4 months afterwards.
So you set yourself up financially somewhat that you were in a survivable scenario even without alternate income besides your retirement?
I had other businesses.
You had some other little side things going on to give you enough money to float this gig.
Yep, I have an operation in Hawaii, a hunting operation out there with a couple other partners. Every so often someone would ask me to do some speaking or whatever, that sort of thing. Did some tactical training, little things like that. But I was set up to be able to move into this financially. And
then where'd you move to?
So we got out, and we weren't planning on moving because our son, we thought, hey, we have this support network built up now over the last 6-7 years. Mm-hmm. It's here in San Diego, and we can never move. We definitely can't go someplace where it's cold because he just lies down and just. Anyway, it would be very difficult to take him to a place where it was rainy, where it was snowy, where you had to put extra clothes on him, like that sort of thing. And then we go to Park City, Utah, the winter after I get out, and we took our son on a vacation with us for the first time. And we started going to Park City during my last couple of years when I'm not. So I built up a ton of leave. I never took leave until those last couple of years. Because those last couple of years, I'm like, well, I'm not taking guys downrange anymore. Let's start taking some leave. We have all this on the books. So we'd go to Park City with a few friends from San Diego because it's easier to fly to Salt Lake and drive to Park City than it was to drive through bands of traffic to get to Mammoth or Big Bear or whatever else. So we started doing that the last couple of years. And then we took our son on vacation with us, and we took someone with us to help, so we had an extra set of hands. But we got there and we spent 2 weeks up in Park City, and we thought, you know what, we can do this. We're not tied to San Diego. We brought someone, yes, that was here full time, yes, but we did it. And that was like, that opened just a few doors for us that we didn't think were open to us ever. And while we were there, I opened this magazine and said, hey, look at this house around the corner here. Let's go check this thing out. So we drove around the corner, checked it out, and I'm like, let's move. Yeah. We decided right then and there to move, and got the house, and 6 months later we're there. And I think it helped to make a physical and psychological break with the military for me. Because I was in Coronado, and as the OPSO of Buds, I saw so many guys that couldn't let it go. And obviously, it's a huge part of who I am. It's in my novels and all that stuff. It's a huge part of me. But I saw guys that kept coming back to Buds, kept calling me as the OPSO. Hey, can I get a tour? I want to show somebody around. Hey, no problem. Come on in. I'm all about it. But I saw they just couldn't let it go. going to all the charity events, going to the same bars, going to the same grocery stores, especially in Coronado. So I think for me, it was healthy to say that was one chapter of my life. Obviously a huge influence on me. I wanted to do it my whole life, but now we're moving forward. And now there's a new chapter, and that's as an author, and that's taking care of my family and raising our kids to be good citizens and good people. And that's what I'm going to do next. And I think it just helped to not run into somebody at the grocery store from a platoon and say, "Oh, what are you doing? Oh, who's your CO? What's and all those sorts of same questions. That just keeps that tie. So being able to say goodbye to San Diego, and San Diego was great to us. Love San Diego, love Coronado, but that was one part of our life, and our new life is in the mountains, raising our kids in a ski town.
And you're super stoked right now on that.
Yeah. Love it up there. And we got there. We drove, we got the U-Haul and we drove through the night and all that. And we get there, 13 hours later because you're chugging along with this U-Haul, and we unload it. And the next day we go to the grocery store and we look around and we're like, man, people in Park City are in good shape. Like, we thought we were in pretty good shape in San Diego. Like, these people are insane in Park City. It just draws these people that want to raise their kids in ski towns. Usually they've done something somewhere else where they, hit their whatever, they can live there. Yeah. And they're really into being in shape and being the best people physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever, just being the best, most efficient people they can be. And luckily I had some friends up there already, and this insane group of guys that works out in the morning. We wake up at 5, and once again, that pendulum this last few months has been on the writing. But when I first got there, I started working out with these guys that I knew from before, and Hopi Darling is kind of the lead of that. He used to be the CEO of Skull Candy, and now he's CEO he has a bunch of other ventures, but this guy is in insane shape, and he's there every morning at 5:30 with some crazy workout. Like, picture your hardest CrossFit workout and then times it by 3 or 4, add some trail running. It's crazy. Yeah. And so I showed up with these guys, and they're awesome, but they're all about just human potential, I think is the best way to put it, and maximizing that potential, whether it's your family, whether it's in business, personally, whatever, just and staying up to date on the latest and the greatest and testing things out. And they're an amazing group of people. So I'm very fortunate to get to work out and spend time with them, because all high performers, we all push each other. And even though I'm not the fastest anymore, certainly not the strongest, especially with this crew, it's cool to get out there and just be together. It's like a little team.
Awesome. Well, I mean, it looks like we're at a pretty good, that gets us to today, where you're at. Probably a good place to wrap. The books. Tell us just a little bit about the books. What do we need to know about book 1, book 2?
Yeah. So the first one's The Terminal List, which I didn't say it out loud for the first year I was working on it. And then I said it out loud for the first time, and there's 2 L's next to each other. And I said it for the first time. I was like, dang it. Like, it's a tough one to say, The Terminal List. But at its base level, it is a story of revenge without constraint. And that's what I wanted to explore. And I think it was I adored a Team 5 Ops 1997. I saw they had somebody Xeroxed, copied a thing from the brand new internet that had a picture of a samurai on it, and it said something about a samurai going into battle thinking they were already dead. And, I went back and looked at all my old Bushido books from high school and college, and I thought, oh, wow, they did that because they thought it made them more effective and efficient warriors. They're going into battle already dead. And I thought, how do you do that with a modern warrior? How do you do that with someone that has a background similar to mine, so I can explore these feelings and emotions behind different experiences that I had downrange in a completely fictional sense? But how do I make him already dead? And then I thought about the church hearings in the late 70s and how the government had tested certain drugs on our nation's soldiers, on mental institutions, college students, without any review, any sort of structure in place with how that's gonna go down. And things changed after that. And I thought, well, what if somebody didn't get that memo? What if there was something they wanted to test out? They wanted to test it out on some of our nation's most elite soldiers, and then something goes wrong. So how do I free this guy up to think he's already dead and to come back and have to use the tactics, techniques, and procedures of the enemy on home soil? So essentially, I wanted someone that thought they were already dead that now gets to bring what was so effective against us in Iraq and Afghanistan to home soil as he works his way up a list, putting the bad guys in the ground one by one. So that's really what that first one's about. And then, if you dig a little deeper into it, more like psychological wise, I guess. It's about a veteran that comes home and brings the wars from Iraq and Afghanistan home to people that have been sending young men and women to their deaths for coming up on 20 years now pretty soon. So you can read it like that too, but that's deep. That's deep.
And then where'd you pick up with True Believer?
So that's a continuation of the story. So in high school, I saw it was on PBS, and it was a special with Bill Moyers, and he had an interview with a guy named Joseph Campbell, who wrote a book called The Power of Myth and The Hero with 1,000 Faces. And I was fascinated by it because, I knew I wanted to write one day, and I remember they talked about George Lucas being influenced by this for Star Wars and kind of the samurai aspect of different things, and then how across culture the hero's journey is similar, very similar to the cultures that had never touched each other before. China, Native American, Indian, Africa, Northern Europe, they all had this similar journey. And usually it's a reluctant hero that goes on a journey, emerges transformed at the end of that journey. So that was a big influence. So in writing these,
you have called Mikey and the Dragons.
Oh, no. I was just reading that to my kid the other night. And so he has to go. You got to go into the cave, and you have to emerge transformed. But how do you do that with one book, and then how do you make that overarching a series as well? So there's two things I think about as I'm writing. I think about that hero's journey in the context of one singular story, and then over what I hope will be a long-term series. So that's what I'm thinking about as I write these things. And then True Believer is the continuation of that story, but it was inspired by somebody I met in Iraq in 2006, and I thought, what if I made this interaction and what I heard through the grapevine later, what if I made this a lot more interesting and fictionalized it? And so that's where the second one picks up, and it's really a story of redemption and still taking the emotions and the feelings behind certain things that happen downrange, but also now exploring what that transition was like, because the hero here in the story, James Reese, has to go through a transformative journey, and the second one's all about redemption.
And when does book 2, when's True Believer come out?
July 30th.
July 30th,
Yep.
That comes out. Yep. The terminal list is out right now.
It is out. Yeah, the second one should have come out April 2nd, but the Department of Defense took 7 months to do a 30-day review. I just wanted to make sure I was honoring my former security clearances by submitting it to the Department of Defense.
And you just leave the stuff that they tell you to take out, or the stuff that they tell you to redact, you just black it out.
I just black it out because I didn't know if I write around it. Am I still,
which is kind of funny. You did that in the terminal list too.
Yep.
When you sent it to me, you gave me a heads up. You said, "Hey, I just blacked things out." And
Yep.
Obviously my books have been, not my kids' books, but my other books have been through the Pentagon review, and they tell you that you could remove certain things, and we would remove it and change it so it's acceptable to them. But you just blacked it out straight up.
Just left it blacked out, yeah, because I was worried, like, what if I write around this and then I publish it, and then what if they come back and say, "Oh, you didn't quite write around that enough"?
Did you do that just to be cool, kind of?
And it also adds a little authenticity, helps with the marketing.
Yeah, and it's like, I was looking through it, and I'm looking at like and I can figure out a lot of them. I go, oh, they didn't want him to say that. Oh, they didn't want him to say that. So it's pretty cool. But you can still, obviously you can still understand all the context around it. You just don't know a certain like specific term or a certain specific location or a certain specific name. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Pretty cool that you left it in there. And the books are available everywhere.
Yep.
Everywhere.
Audio. People love the audio. Ray Porter does the audio. He's an awesome dude. He was up for Audiobook of the Year this year. So we're in New York, and it's up there. Well, I texted you because you were up there for Audiobook. Yeah. You're in your category. Yeah. So I was texting you. I took a picture of the screen and everything. But it was cool seeing it up there next to Stephen King. Like, I was like, dang,
that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. To find you, you got your website, which is officialjackcarr.com.
That's it.
Because you didn't buy the URL Jack Carr early enough.
I think an insurance guy has it in Nebraska or something.
Some guy's holding it for hostage, and you're never going to get it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you will. Never say never.
Yeah. So that's one that if people want to geek out a little more on the weapons, the knives, that sort of thing. The website goes deep dives into a lot more of that stuff than the books.
Because you get your nerd on.
Yeah.
You get your weapons nerd on.
Exactly.
You're like, you bring the librarian of your mom to the damn Jack Carr weapons scene.
That's it. So it's on there, and then on the socials, which I am very new to. I'm about a year and a half into this now. It's Jack Carr USA on the socials, and there is a Facebook, but 3 was just too much. Like, so somebody else just copies and paste things
Into
into there. But on Instagram and Twitter, Jack Carr USA, and those are the ones where I interact with people.
You're interacting in the game.
That's it. I'm in on those. But 3 was just too daunting. Just
couldn't handle
I knew
it.
it. Nope. Prioritize.
You know what I do? All 3.
It's next level.
I'm crazy like that. That's how super motivated I am.
I'm
on 3 social media platforms. Kill me now.
Man, well, usually I have every now and again I have a hard time going to sleep. My mind's racing. I'm thinking about all these things, thinking about storylines, solving problems on the written page here aggressively like I used to do on the battlefield. But usually I don't have a problem staying asleep once I get there. This morning, up 3:07 a.m. and I'm like, dang, and I took a picture of it for you. So I'm like, dang.
Did you post it?
No, it's D-Day today, so I didn't think that would be, so I kept my D-Day post on point. But I will post it.
D-Day. Awesome. Yeah, so I think that's a good place to wrap. Echo. Mm-hmm. Jack was just talking about fitness. He's talking about being prepared. Sure. Opened up talking about being a true believer that knows the cause.
Yeah, fully.
What do you know about, sort of that cause, being on the path, believing in it truly?
Yeah, fully. I do want to comment on how you blacked out the classified parts of your book. It's kind of like in the movies, right? Or when they want to, they show movies on HBO or in the cinema, whatever. It's all good. They put it on USA or one of these, networks. They got to edit it, right? Edited for television. So there's 3 ways they do it in the movies. They either just take out the whole scene, which is like what they do with books, right? Sometimes, like,
I guess they could, yeah. Usually change it.
Yes,
which they do that in movies too.
In the movie
they
version,
it, yeah.
They have a dubbed voiceover for the swearing, right? And every once in a while, you have a movie with an actual different scene.
Yeah,
like if you watch Trading Places or something on US, they have actual different scenes like that they redid.
Check.
Then the third is the blackout version, what you did, which they just blank it out. So if they're swearing, he'll be like, "What the?" and the mouth will show it, but they just won't have the audio, right? Mm-hmm. To me, that's the best way to do it. Because it keeps you in the story. You're like, okay, he swore right there. Yeah. I get it. You can't swear on this network or whatever. But in my opinion, the blackout, the physical, like I just saw it in there, it's physically blacked out, right? Yep. Anti-highlighted, low-lighted, if you will. Mm-hmm. It gives it the mystique.
Yeah.
Kind of like there's something hidden under here that's classified that you can't know about.
So classified.
Yeah. You can't know about you can't even know about it. Even that it's fiction, which is even a level up, like a half level up even from that.
Yeah.
That's
You're like,
what
wait
I
a
think.
second. They're redacting fiction?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So it goes
and I
deep,
noticed
man.
you laughed when he said like secret, because you and I both know what gets redacted.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
And it's not really all that secret.
I know. I don't want to build it up too much. So when we talk about it, I always want to make
leave it
sure.
Where it was. We'll edit this out.
Well,
it's so top
my
secret.
plan. So the first one, I didn't appeal. So you have a year to appeal these things, and I didn't do it the first one because I didn't have enough money. So second one though, they took out a lot more in this second one, and I'm appealing this one. So, and what you do for the appeal is you find the information on government websites. You can't just go to Wikipedia, whatever else. Okay. But on actual government websites, in congressional testimony, out there via the government. Mm-hmm. So we're appealing this one, and almost everything in there except for one little phrase, we found it on government websites. So we're appealing so that if the paperback comes out in this, now you can see what the government didn't want you to see. But I don't want to build it up too much because it's really it's
not as cool as it sounds.
No, but one thing that they took out was so surprising is that I made up. So I made up a location because I'd been there before I went in the military. So I used it as a location in the novel because it made sense where it starts. Second one kind of starts in Africa, and then it goes up here and goes into whatever. But I'm like, this would be a good place for kind of the cave. Got to go there and change. Got to transform. And so I just made it up because I'd been there. I could describe the rocks. I could describe the mountains. I could describe the architecture. So I put it in there. They blacked it all out. And I totally made up. They blacked it all out, but they left in by accident the capital of that country.
Check.
So I blacked it out for them, knowing the intent. Knowing their intent, I took it out for them. But they missed that. They took out the type of architecture. They took out the mountains. They took out any reference to the country, which is so strange. But they left in by accident the capital.
So you know what that means, right?
Yeah,
that means somebody else was up in that cave getting their retransformation going on.
Yep. Exactly.
Truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah. But that's good. That's another selling point in a way when you can say, this, like, I'm revealing in this book what the government didn't want you to see factually. You know?
Exactly. So
Dang,
the paperback.
Deep.
We'll see how it goes.
Cool, man. Well, one day, did you revisit jiu-jitsu or what? I
So-
mean, I know you're doing these hard
you're
exercises.
about to take heavies right now.
I know. So I dabbled through the years. But essentially, what I did up until 95, that's really my base.
Yeah.
And obviously I shoot, well, not obviously. So I shoot all the time, stay in shape, that sort of thing. But the jiu-jitsu is, wherever I am right now, that is where my martial ground fighting skills are going to remain.
Wait, why are you committing to that right now?
Yeah.
Spine,
That
well,
seemed like
one,
a
the spine
commitment.
surgery.
Oh,
Two, just time-wise and knowing where my focus needs to be right now.
What do you think's worse for your spine? Clean and jerks or grappling?
Clean and jerks.
I'm gonna have to agree.
Really?
I love clean and jerks.
yeah.
And I don't actually think clean and jerks are bad for your spine. I think they're good for your spine. But grappling,
We'll say it's more
and you
taxing.
actually this is to delve into how you get your information for your little books, right?
Oh, yeah.
You sent me a text,
I
whatever,
did.
like 2 years ago. Hey, if a guy was in Virginia, wanted to train with like the best on the East Coast, where would he go and train?
Yep.
You sent me that text. I'm like, send him to Henzo Gracie.
Yep, sure did. You got right back to me. I appreciated it, and it went right in the book. I'm like,
That's
hey,
the
these guys-
easiest research you've ever done.
Oh, it's great.
Text
Yeah.
Jocko.
Perfect. Yep, and it made it right in the book, and then I moved on.
Bro, I feel bad when people text me and I don't text them back like right away.
Oh, really? So then you must feel real bad with me then.
Well, yeah, I
Because,
do,
the
yeah,
whole right away
sometimes.
thing is real foreign to me. eh?
But sometimes it just doesn't, like getting a lot of texts and like you got to sit there and, but I try and text people back eventually. Or you might need to hit me with a little
Follow up.
reminder. You'll follow up.
Yeah, man. I dig it. Well, hey, doing jiu-jitsu and peaking at 95, staying there is better than not taking jiu-jitsu and not peaking
What about the
at
kids?
all.
The kids were in it. Yep, right away.
boom.
Daughter in it from maybe age 4.
Oh, just
dang,
in the
like
game
that.
right now.
In Park
well,
City,
she was
she's
playing in
not.
Coronado.
Yeah.
Oh.
So now
See,
that we're
this is
in,
where we need to talk, bro.
Yeah, so she's into snowboarding now and tennis. So she
Cool.
turned 13.
That's cool and everything, but-
I think age 11 or maybe 11, I think she might have stopped. She kind of, it's tough.
We need to
That was
get back
tough.
in the game.
Yeah.
Is there jiu-jitsu in Park City? I know there's full-on jiu-jitsu in Utah. You got
Yes.
Pedro Sauer up there.
Oh, yeah.
You got all kinds of good jiu-jitsu people up in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep, no, we sure do. And there's one, I think Pedro Sauer has, a little offsite in Park City, maybe, or he
probably.
did. So, of course, we checked it out before the move. They've moved since, so I haven't followed where they moved to, but I think there's one still there. But it was important to me because at the time we moved, my daughter was still in it. Our little guy was in it, our 8-year-old. So it was important to me that there was jiu-jitsu where we were moving. And but now that we moved, we get there and it's gone. It's just like an empty space. So I think it's still there somewhere, but the kids, they're doing their other things, unfortunately.
Got the skiing.
Yeah, there's a lot to do up there. But I dabbled over the years. Was still doing it while I was at an OPSO and an XO right before I got out in Coronado because it was right there. I could go at lunch and roll with some guys. But,
I'll do some research.
dang, they
I'll
were
figure out
good.
where we can get you and your family back in the game up in Park City because I personally feel like guilty to have your family not training, to have you not training.
Yeah, me too.
We need to get that squared away.
I know you're taking some extreme ownership right there.
Jack Carr.
You're taking some extreme ownership of that.
Reese needs to be getting in the game.
Yeah, in the
Reese
story,
needs to be,
the fictionalized, James Reese is on it.
Yeah,
he's
that's what I'm
he's training his
saying.
jiu-jitsu.
But you gotta get, you talk about transferring those emotions, right?
Yeah.
From real world.
Oh, I remember
into your
what
art.
it feels like to get just thrown around the mat, just the floor wiped. Yeah. I was worried. That's why I didn't tell you I was coming in last night.
Yeah, I noticed I didn't get that text. I was like, cool.
didn't. I was worried that I'd be up at 3-something, getting just destroyed on the mat in
Massive
here.
justice.
Yeah.
Well, Jocko's knee is out, so either way.
That knee is rapidly
Yeah.
approaching.
Yeah, and it's been rapidly
Cleared
approaching
hot
for a long time.
status.
On that one, so all good, and we're gonna look forward to that. So, back to jiu-jitsu. When you get back into jiu-jitsu, you're gonna need a gi. Or if you're getting into jiu-jitsu for the first time, you're gonna need a gi. Do gi, no gi, do both. That's the best, 100%. By the way,
Especially if you're in Park City, Utah. If you get in a fight in Park City, Utah, the other person is almost guaranteed to be wearing a gi type outfit.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's true, huh?
Straight
Yeah.
up wearing a jacket.
Good point.
Straight up
Wait,
wearing
is it always cold
straight
up
up wearing a North Face parka, right? Just Patagonia, boom.
It's very possible.
There's
You
a lot
ever
of that
grab the
going on.
lapel on a Patagonia jacket? Yeah, let's get some of that. Put some on the sleeve.
What's a Patagonia jacket?
It's just a jacket. It's like a parka. This is another. I had to explain to him what a parka was on one podcast.
Wow.
He's from Hawaii.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I never heard of that, but nonetheless, sounds nice. Sounds good. Similar to a gi top. Good. All right. We're gonna do gi. What kind of gi we're gonna get? Do you know?
I know.
Jack
Origin.
Origin gi,
Yep,
made in
there's
America,
only one.
100%.
There's only one.
Best one in the world. Why would you not get the best one in the world?
There's no reason.
100% get the best one in the world.
Is it because the best one costs 5 times more than the not best one?
No.
Or is
Not
it
in
all
this case.
the same?
No, same cost. Well, you can choose. You can grab the big deluxe. What do you call? What's the word you always use? Not always, but
Premium?
You did. Oh no, luxurious. I think it was.
Luxurious.
Nonetheless, you can grab that one if you want. Good. Up to you. Origin keys have various. What do you call like options of keys? All made in America, though. By the way.
Speaking of made in America, you get other clothes made in America, namely T-shirts, yeah, sure, but also sweatshirts, yeah, and also newest, latest jeans.
Which I have some on the way, by the way. I'm
Oh,
happy
I'm
to
sure
announce
you do.
finally, B-Little, we teamed up.
You
teamed up.
You had to
the
just
we're in
flank
but
and
we're in a
assault.
secondary group, me and B-Little, Brian Littlefield. And, we're tight. We're in the game, whatever, right? But we're always last to get the cool new stuff. Jocko, always first. Pete, always first, right? Us, always. We're not even second. We're not even third. We're last every time. Nonetheless, we banded together, and now I have a pair of Origin jeans, made in America, American denim jeans on the way to me. So
Nice.
boom, happy to announce that one to everyone. Also, rash guards, of course, other jiu-jitsu stuff as well. Also, supplements. The most important kind of supplements. Boom, joints keep you in the game. Protein keep you in the game.
It's delicious,
Jocko
by the
white
way.
tea. Is Jocko white tea a supplement?
Yes.
is so.
Because it has to be a supplement because what else would give you an 8,000-pound deadlift?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Nothing.
And it's certified organic, so the whole WADA thing, no
How'd you like
factor.
your first Jocko white tea? Was
I
that your
loved
first
it.
Jocko white
Yep,
tea?
I couldn't do the podcast without having one.
Well,
so
some people don't. It's not sweet. There's no sugar in there.
Nope.
It's just tea,
it's great.
but it has the pomegranate little fruitness to
A little
it.
bit.
Right?
Keeps
Little
you wanting more.
fruitness, yeah.
Makes you want more.
Yeah.
No, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. I'm going to have to
You know what you should do
get
is
some of
go
this in Park City.
deadlift and then go right. Because whenever I write, that's guaranteed.
Right there.
That's guaranteed like at least 300 words coming at you live. Easy, smooth. Just rubbing it off your fingertips.
I like it. I like it.
Into the computer.
I've got my marching orders.
Also, discipline, by the way, speaking of writing. Oh, that's a good one. I found, and I don't write as much as you. You might not have known that, but I make these videos every once in a while. If you're on the discipline,
Videos are awesome.
Even that kind of comes a lot easier. Boom, boom,
yeah.
when you're doing. And so stay
My
on
favorite
that.
one, we lie to ourselves.
Yeah.
That was my
Oh,
favorite.
yeah.
That was my
That is a
favorite.
good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah, accurate representation of
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
Can't grow, otherwise it's true. It's absolutely true. But yeah, discipline, that's a good one. And discipline, go. If you don't want to, mix it up and do all that stuff. If you're on the go, essentially, right? That's the way it goes. Unless,
Just hit some of that and then you
Makes
get mulk.
sense.
And then you just go.
You get mulk, which is additional protein
Yeah.
for your life. Because we all know we're eating steak.
Yes, sir.
We're eating chicken. Some people are eating sushi.
Yes, sir, we are. A lot of sushi.
That all gives you protein, which is good. Sometimes you need a little bit more. Or sometimes you just want to dessert
Dessert, yes.
straight up. Have you tried the...
I have not yet.
So
I'm looking forward to it, though.
Just it's ridiculous. You ever had a Nestle Strawberry Quick?
Yes. It's been a long time, though.
Did you like it?
Yes. I like the chocolate one, I think, though.
Okay, you like the chocolate
I like
better?
chocolate,
That's cool.
yep.
Some people are like that.
Remember, I tried them both, but I go back to the chocolate.
Yeah. The Strawberry Slayer milk tastes absolutely delicious. And then we have Warrior Kid milk. So for
I
your
heard
kids,
that.
yeah.
Yep.
It's totally good to go.
I keep meaning to get that, too, because our kids, man, they do not. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get
Because
some
your
of that.
kids want to eat cake. They want to drink Nestle's Quick.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's tasty. It's
delicious.
They don't have to do that.
Nope.
They can get protein.
I'm going to get some of
probiotics,
those,
and they
for
get
sure.
no sugar.
Yeah.
What's up? And it tastes delicious. All right, cool.
Yep.
So there's that.
Into it.
Warrior Kid milk. And then if you want like this shirt that Echo's wearing, this good shirt,
It's the second
then
one.
you can
by
go
the
to
way.
our store collectively, everyone's.
It's not
This
yours.
isn't no, because you keep calling it my store. It's not my store.
Well, it has your name in it. So
Yeah, no, but everybody goes there. It's not just me in the store by myself.
You are
the
correct,
store is
yeah.
for everyone.
Yep,
right?
that is true. Yes.
It's not your store. It's not my store. It's our store collectively as a group.
Is it Jack Carr's store too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn
You can
right,
click
huh?
it there anytime.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So that is at jockostore.com if you want to represent on this path, right? Discipline equals freedom. The good mentality, right? Looking for the good in the bad, quote unquote bad.
I get it.
You know, whatever. You want to represent, boom, that's where you get your stuff.
Speaking of which, you were talking Jocko White T. I don't know if you saw this, Tom Clancy fan that you are. Did you see that in the latest Tom Clancy novel? The Jack Ryan, you know what he drinks?
Oh, I saw this.
Yeah.
But I didn't read it, but I saw it. Somebody posted about it, took a picture and put it up there. Yeah.
Jocko White T.
I saw that. Yep.
Jack Ryan's in the game. We're wondering what James Reese is going to be drinking in book 3.
You're going to have to stand by and find out. Yeah, what gi is he going to be wearing? I know what gi he's going to be wearing.
Yeah, well, he's definitely, we know what gi he's going to be wearing. Like the Warrior Kid 3 book. You know what? You know what gi's being worn? Origin.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Boom. There you go. So yeah, everybody's representing. So yeah, you want to represent. Even if you're already representing, you want to re-represent or represent more. JockoStore.com. Boom. Hoodies, t-shirts, rash guards, hats, everything, patches, everything.
Subscribe to this podcast so you can hear Jack Carr and others talking about their experiences. And then leave reviews so that I can laugh at your funny reviews. Yep. Or be like, you ever head nod to your computer? Like you're looking at your computer, you read a solid review, and you just give that review a little
like
head nod.
Actually,
a little head nod for that thing.
Good.
Like somebody wrote a damn good review the other day, and I read it and I was like, gave him one of those. Physical movement at my computer.
Yeah.
It's 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
What am I doing reading reviews? Trying to go to sleep. You're talking about how you have no problem going to sleep? Sometimes I do.
No,
Sometimes I have some trouble going to sleep.
Well, I have trouble going to sleep. It's trouble waking up.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you have trouble waking up?
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather sleep in.
Oh, okay.
But I do get up, at 5 a.m. It comes quick.
Yeah.
At 5 a.m. And not at 3 a.m. like you, but 5 a.m. Meet the guys at 5:30, knock it out, home at 7, help with the kids, then start writing.
Yeah, no, that's solid right there.
Yeah.
Fine.
If you remind me, we'll get some stuff for your crew up there.
Nice.
Get them in the game.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's good.
Absolutely.
The head nod, that's like level 1, like what do you call? Like there's base level respect, right? There's extra respect, and then there's the ceiling. Above the ceiling, there's level 1 respect. When you're physical head nods for computer.
Yeah.
Level 2, claps for, you see what I'm saying? You clap for the performer.
Nah,
right?
but that's different, bro.
No,
You're not.
no.
I would never in a million years clap at my computer.
I know, because that's.
I
don't know,
Maybe
man.
that's
level 2. But someone's gonna come up with like a review or something, and it'll warrant a clap. That's my contention.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I had a good one that I nodded yesterday. Did a little head nod. Yeah,
At your computer.
Yeah. Somebody wrote, Jack Carr has a graduate degree in the art of war.
Oh,
and I was like,
I liked it.
I was like, give that
positive
nod.
head nod.
Positive head nod.
Yeah,
Yep.
Jack, look at
Someone else said one.
racking them up.
Yeah, no, someone else wrote one about it. If John Wick, the Punisher, and somebody else had a child, it would be James Reese. I'm like, yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Check this out.
Head nod worthy,
Liked it.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So yeah, subscribe, man. If you're into it and you want to write a review, do it. Also, don't forget about Warrior Kid Podcast, which is not dead.
No.
It's being resurrected. Well,
It's
never dead, so
dead.
it's not resurrected.
No.
Yeah.
It is alive and well.
Yeah.
However, there hasn't been a lot of new additions lately, but they're coming. Okay. They're coming.
Boom. There you go. So
I was mentally going through possibilities for the next story from Uncle Jake.
Right.
So, yeah.
So the pendulum was just away.
Yeah. The pendulum's away from Warrior Kid
that.
Podcast.
Yeah.
Actually, now that book 8 is almost wrapped, that's what the prioritize and execute is on.
Just gonna say it. You beat me to it. I was waiting to get in there with prioritize and execute. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a Warrior Kid Podcast, and if you want to support a Warrior Kid, then you can get some Jocko soap.
Yeah, man.
Warrior Kid soap from IrishOaksRanch.com. Young Aiden, Warrior Kid, making soap. And don't forget about YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click.
Bruh,
what are they supposed to say?
You can't say that. You can't say that.
What do they say?
I think they say like, subscribe, and no, wait. Yeah, something like
There's
that.
some other thing that you're supposed to do.
Yeah,
if you're
subscribe.
that. Okay, so anyways,
Like,
check
share,
out the YouTube
share.
channel. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So if you want to do those things, whatever. And that's where you can get Echo's Echo's videos that he spends allegedly so much time making, and they come out once every 4 years, like the Olympics, like the Winter Olympics in Park City.
That's it.
Every 4 years, a good video is going to come out.
Whatever, Jack Carr likes them, so boom.
I do. I reposted that one.
Boom.
Reposted.
Proof.
We lie to ourselves.
Yep. Boom. There you go. See, thanks for that, by the way.
All right.
Also, psychological warfare.
Go ahead. No, I'm giving it to you. I put your name there.
Psychological warfare. If you don't know what that is, this is what it is. It's an album with tracks. Jocko tracks. Anyway, he on those tracks, he tells you how to get through moments of weakness, like if you're about to eat the wrong thing. Because for the short term, because the short game, long game.
I think I need to listen to this.
Bro, yeah, and it 100% works, by the way. So if you're like, okay, in life, this is what I learned. It's one of the biggest things. People ask me this all the time. I would say literally anyone who has questions, quote unquote, for me, this is one of the questions they'll ask. What's the biggest thing you learned from Jocko? I'll tell you right now. Here it is. If you look at things short term versus long term, small picture, big picture. Oh, and then there's like another one, whatever. But either way, it's all the same thing. Short term. So in psychological warfare, if you're going short game, if you're going to start playing the short game for that moment, this
if you're going to lose the short game in the moment. Oh, yes. I see what you're saying. If you're gonna take a short-term path that's going to have immediate gratification, but it's a long-term down.
Yes, exactly right. And most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, short-term, if you play short game, you lose the long game. With that play, it's like you take a short-term step forward and take a long step back. It's one of those deals. Usually, you can break things down into that. So this what this does.
I'm getting that because I need to listen to that while I'm at Whole Foods and I'm getting up there ready to get to that register and they have those peanut butter cups. Oh, the all natural.
Yeah, they throw all natural on them. Like that's okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All natural.
It's better than that orange Reese's. I'm going.
You know what else is all natural? Heroin is all natural. You know, like it's the same thing. Man. What are we doing over here?
Yeah, I just got to listen to that as I'm checking out.
Bro, that's perfect, actually, because actually it's good because you can actually have it in the queue, you know? Because a lot of times, like, you're just in the pantry or wherever you are, and you're like, boom, I'm looking for the good stuff or whatever. Boom, I see the Oreos.
Bro,
I can't just go, let me queue it up. Sometimes it gets hard, is what I'm saying.
Bro, my son, can drive now, right? Which means he can go to the store, which means he can shop for food, right? Mm-hmm. We're talking 16-year-old boy. What does he get at the store?
Reese's.
We're talking just
all natural ones.
Oh, he just gets crazy. You know,
so good.
He'll be like, I'm hungry. Going to the store. Comes home. What does he come home with? Half gallon of whatever. Ice cream.
Makes sense, right? Because the supermarkets they formulate or they design the store and the products a certain way. Yeah. So like boom. That's why they put the Reese's peanut butter right at the checkout. There. They call them impulse buys, right? And that goes for everything. Little magazines and balloons and all these little things. You know what
that is? That's their psychological warfare.
Yes, sir.
That's what it is. 100%. It's their psychological warfare, and you got to combat that.
Yeah.
With psychological warfare.
With Jocko psychological warfare.
It's like they're flanking me. They're flanking me.
Absolutely.
Because I can avoid the aisle. I can avoid the aisle.
Yeah, you can skip that whole snack aisle. You're not even going down there. But you got to check out.
Got to check out.
And that's why they got them. That's your weakness, bro.
They're so good.
Yeah. But that's what your boy is essentially falling for. When he goes in, he's like, hey, I'm going to go.
No. That's where you're wrong. He's not going up there on an impulse buy.
He's
going straight. He's leaving the house. He's leaving the house and he's thinking, Briars.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
That's where he's at.
Too, yes.
He goes and gets cakes. Like
the plan is cakes.
Honestly, the ice cream thing has really taken a down hit at my house because milk, right? Because everyone's just kind of on the milk train.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But my son will get straight up chocolate chip cookies. That's what he did last night. That's why this is fresh in my mind. Comes home 9 o'clock, goes to the store at 8:40. Like we already ate dinner. Okay, where are you going? I'm just going to go to the store. Yeah, and he's only thinking about one thing. He's not thinking about lettuce. Yeah.
No, he's not.
He's not thinking about apples. He's thinking chocolate chip cookies. Coming back with the big chunks in them.
Like the pre-made?
Yeah. And then this evil little kid brings him into my house. You know what I mean? It's a good way to get shanked, actually.
He needs some of that psychological warfare.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, big time. Even though he probably gets it at home all the time.
Hey, if you want to go visual psychological warfare for yourself, check out flipsidecanvas.com. My brother, Dakota Meyer, who's awesome, veteran, Marine, incredible guy, started this company making art to hang on your wall. And you can, it says cool stuff on it, like good, like discipline equals freedom. He's got a whole array of different stuff, so check that out. Flipsidecanvas.com. And if you want him to make something, tweet him.
Yeah.
Tweet to Dakota Meyer. Say, put this on a canvas. He'll figure it out. Make it happen.
So true. Also, On It. So you go to onit.com/Jocko. This is where you can get your kettlebells. You getting kettlebells? You know On It, right?
Oh, yeah.
You seen those
I've ordered
kettlebells?
from there before.
Do you guys work out the home gym? Where are you guys working out at?
No, we go down. It's really cool. They have a full-on like CrossFit type setup at the gym, and there's an indoor track. It's amazing.
Okay, so
they had a
indoor
pool right
track.
there,
Yeah.
but it's full-on like CrossFit-esque
get
style
some.
thing, and you can go get it. Yep.
And they leave you alone.
Yep.
I was in the gym the other day,
Yes,
and
sir.
guess what? No chalk was allowed.
Really? No,
Yeah.
this is
What
this
gym?
Yeah, this
Like a
section.
hotel
I'm not going
gym?
to talk about it.
Was it a hotel
No,
gym?
no,
or
it was a
gym?
proper gym. Hey, it was a gym that had bumper plates. It was a gym that had 6 squat racks. No, 4 squat. No, 6 squat racks. I'm in this gym. No chalk.
If they have bumpers
They
and no
had
chalk, that's weird.
kettlebells. No chalk.
Yeah, that's
they had
weird.
pull-up bars. No chalk.
That's weird.
That's a real problem.
Yeah. I can see like a,
Hey, if you're
no
at 24-hour
kettlebell.
fitness
Yeah,
and
you
you
know.
got the universal machines or whatever that Echo's out there jamming
Bro,
on.
come on.
Yeah, check.
Anyway, nothing against universals, by the way. But, let's keep it real. Anyway, On It kettlebells. You've seen them or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
Yes, so that's where I get my kettlebells. Kettlebell routine in general is good. Do kettlebells?
They have a lot of- yeah, oh, yeah.
What as far as your spine or whatever, and I was
Yeah.
going to ask you earlier, but what does that like keep you from doing mainly?
Well, I wake up, but it hurts all the time. But every time I turn my head and I realize just how lucky I am that after 20 years and all those things, like that's all I have to deal with. So it's mobility, it hurts,
What
whatever.
kind of surgery did you get?
But C6, C7 spine, they went in
Fusion?
and no, the military wanted to fuse me, but luckily I got a second opinion, and they went in and shaved off a bone spur in there that was crushing a nerve that was making my left arm.
Was it
just
like a
crazy.
framinotomy?
I don't think they've used that term. But,
That's what I got.
But I'd have to go
C6,
back.
C7, yeah.
Yep, C6, C7, got to go back in there. But every time it hurts, I'm just like, there's guys out there,
sure.
PTSD, TBI, missing arms and legs, just destroyed. And this is all I have.
Yep.
And hey,
Good to
good.
go. Yep.
No,
We'll take
and
it.
seriously,
We'll take
that's
it all day
yep,
long.
absolutely. So it doesn't really keep me from doing anything. It just reminds me. So I use
Right.
it as a reminder that I'm very lucky, very fortunate.
So you can push it, but just not get nuts and
Yep.
re-injure
Well,
it. Kind
I still got, I try to keep up, and anything I'm trying to take it easy on goes out the window.
Right,
every
right,
time.
yeah.
Just,
That's
just
just
like
how
let's just roll at 20%.
Yeah, let's roll light.
I remember those.
Let's
Yeah,
roll light. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, not happening. So I remember.
Well, yeah, good. Then kettlebells, right? I mean,
Yep.
my point was you do kettlebells, you
Yep.
get that functional strength back, whatever. Boom. Your back's not prohibiting. Boom, you're into kettlebells.
Yep,
Said.
absolutely. Almost every day when we're working out with the crew.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, all my kettlebells, all On It kettlebells.
And we got some books. If you want books, if you like books, first of all, The Terminal List and True Believer by Jack Carr. Check those out. Get into I believe you just said like the psychological minefield
Oh, I like it.
of this dude
Yeah.
who's on the serious warpath, already dead.
Yep.
Get some. Way the Warrior Kid 3 is out. It's live. And you can get that on Amazon.com. Where There's a Will is the subtitle of that book. Find out what happens to young Mark, how Uncle Jake helps him out. Way the Warrior Kid 1 and then Way the Warrior Kid 2, Mark's Mission. Those are also available. Mikey and the Dragons, you can get that one for any kid between the ages of 0 and 150. And they're going to get something out of it.
Yep.
The Discipline Equals Freedom Field Manual, get that. That's what you want to get your kid that just graduated. That's what you want to get your employee that seems to be sliding off the track. That's what you want to get your friend that is letting themselves go down the slippery slope,
Yes.
taking the short-term gratification on stuff. No, you get them the Discipline Equals Freedom Field Manual. The audio version of that is on iTunes, Amazon Music. It's an MP3 format. Then there's Extreme Ownership and the Dichotomy of Leadership, where you can take these lessons from combat. Me and my brother Leif Babin wrote those books, and how you can apply those lessons to your business, to your life. We got Echelon Front Leadership Consultancy, and what we do is solve problems through leadership. We also have EF Online, where you can continue to train leadership, because you never master it. You never even really get good at it. You always have to be working at it. So EF Online, work at it every day. What happens if you stop working out? Do you stay in shape? Echo Charles.
Negative.
What happens if you stop trying to become a good leader? Same thing. You go backwards.
You get rusty
You
first.
get beyond rusty.
Yeah.
We're talking catastrophic.
You just lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
yeah,
talking
that's
you
true,
turn into a leadership slob.
Yes.
You don't want you want to be sharp. You want to be in tune.
Yeah.
I experience this because I get to see it all the time with the companies we work with. I see someone that's like really in the game and they're sharp.
Yeah.
Their leadership is sharp. And then all of a sudden they slack off for a while and they have a leadership problem and they handle it wrong.
Right.
Just like they couldn't do 42 pull-ups like they could before. Now they're doing 32. Why? They haven't been training. Got to keep your leadership brain sharp.
You ever done 42 pull-ups?
No, I think mine was 30-something was my best, I think.
That's still good, man. 30-something.
But in high school, when I was very, very light, I remember 2 sets of 20. I still remember that was my thing. Came home on that bike, 2 sets of 20.
That's what's interesting. That was getting ready for buds, essentially.
That was high school.
But
So I still had a little time. But
so
yes,
you still had time.
I was still training for
what
it.
I was
yeah.
going to say is, like, for me, getting ready for buds was I was like, bro, I did 3 sets of pull-ups today because we didn't know. I didn't think you'd had to do 250 pull-ups per workout,
Right.
350 pull-ups per workout. I didn't think of that. It didn't even make sense to me.
Right.
It was 1989, 1990.
Wow.
There was no way to access this information.
Nope.
So
You're never going to be doing the same number of pull-ups as your class number.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
what?
Yeah.
How many?
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Yeah. By the way, we're doing it tomorrow too.
Yeah,
By the way, we're doing it
200,
after lunch.
Yep.
So get some of that. So that's the same thing. Physical, mental. Get your leadership mindset sharp. Keep it sharp. EF Online. If you want to come to the muster, you better sign up now because they're all sold out. They all sell out very quickly. Chicago sold out. Denver's heading that way. That's September 19th and 20th. And then Sydney, Australia. Looking forward to that, coming down and meeting y'all people in Australia again. If you want to come to that, extremeownership.com, and then EF Overwatch. If you are looking for someone in your company that knows how to lead, then check out efoverwatch.com, where we got special operators and we got combat aviation leaders that are transitioning into the civilian sector and can help you and your team using the principles of combat leadership that we write about in Extreme Ownership and the Dichotomy of Leadership. So, efoverwatch.com. And if you want to hear more from us, if 500 hours of listening isn't enough, then we are on the interwebs, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Key. Echo's at Echo Charles. I am at Jocko Willink, and Jack is at Jack Carr USA. Echo, anything else?
Nothing else. Thank you, Jack Carr.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. I feel very fortunate that getting out, we were able to kind of make the life we want on the outside, kind of defy a few odds along the way, and that's all because my wife, 19, coming up on 19 years,
Outstanding.
this month, and yeah, so because of her strength raising those kids while I was away, now I can help out a little bit, hopefully not mess it up, getting into her routine, but yeah, no, she's amazing, super strong, love her with all my heart. My this next mission in life really is all about her and them.
That's awesome. Well, thanks once again for coming on, and obviously thanks for your service to America.
As with yours, my friend.
You had an awesome run, and you were deployed over and over and over again. And even though we joke about, what a good time it is, and we did have a good time. I know you had a good time, but at the same time, you're making sacrifices. Your family's home alone, and that's huge. So thanks to you, thanks to your family, thanks to your wife for having the strength to deal with that, and appreciate you. And it's awesome to see what you're doing right now.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
To anyone else that's listening that is serving right now or has served, thanks to you for keeping us free, and to police and to law enforcement and firefighters and paramedics and EMTs and dispatchers and correctional officers and border patrol and Secret Service and all the first responders that are out there 24 hours a day, and they're training and they're preparing and they're on call so that we can be safe here at home. Thanks to all of you for that service and for that sacrifice. And to everyone else that is listening, remember that there's always somebody out there with their sights on you. And maybe it's a competitor in business. Maybe it's an enemy insurgent. Maybe it's some criminal thug. Maybe it's someone that's just looking to do harm to you or your family. Or maybe that someone is you. And maybe you're your own worst enemy. Sliding into the depths of complacency, allowing yourself to wander down the easy path. Say no to that. Remember why you're here. Remember what you want to do. Remember your cause. Be a true believer. And then live that belief by getting up every day and getting after it. And until next time, this is Jack Carr and Echo and Jocko. Out.